There are many elections happening today. I hope you all went out and voted. And already we're getting people calling shenanigans. I don't know how serious any of these stories are, but sure enough, there's something to talk about. Votes being flipped in one voting location in Philadelphia. People are quite worried about this. Gas leaks being reported. Some locations having to get extended times, but they're saying all of this is being taken care of. Now, I don't think the big story here is necessarily that these individual things happen, but that it's a preview of what's to come in the next year. And just think about what's gonna happen when the stakes are a bit higher than, say, like the governorship of a single state, when it's the president and when it's Donald Trump. We also got into the Trump trial. Trump tried to read a disclaimer clause in court where it says specifically in his contracts he's not liable for inaccuracies, and the judge would not let him do it. People are now screaming bias because they already had a summary judgment against him saying he did commit fraud. They don't care that he actually has a document proving he didn't. It's fascinating. We're going to talk about that. Plus, YouTube and Facebook have censored the reporting from Steven Crowder on the Nashville Trans Manifesto. And of course, we have the release of Infringed. You guys got to check it out. Before we get started, head over to Timcast.com and you'll notice right there on the front page, Lauren Southern and Jon du Toit's film Infringed is now available. It's been up since this morning. Become a member to watch the full-length documentary. Share it with your friends. We are doing a massive marketing campaign behind this because it is not just about the excellent work advocating for our right to keep and bear arms, defend ourselves, and the practical issue of how it's important if we want to protect ourselves. It's also about just helping build that culture. And I think, we're going to do a massive ad campaign because at the very least, we're going to get those commercials up across YouTube and other platforms advocating for your right to keep and bear arms. So if you like the work that we're doing, if you watch the documentary already and you love it, stay as a member, upgrade your membership, and share it with your friends. And if you haven't, you really do need to see it because it's epic. Smash that like button, subscribe to this channel. We're going to have that members only uncensored show coming up for you as well if you're a member. But tonight, joining us to talk about all of this, plus the making of Infringed, Gun Rights in America, we've got Lauren Southern and Jon du Toit. Lauren, what's up?
Hey, thanks for having me. It's definitely a pleasure to finally see the film out. It's been a long time coming, and all the reactions have been incredible coming in. All positive.
That's right. And Lauren,
happen.
In an act of celebratory defiance, took our $5,000 cognac and insisted upon drinking from a paper cup.
That's right.
Right now, everybody who knows what Louis XIII is probably throwing up a little in their mouth as she prepares to pour it into a paper cup. But, she wants to.
It's okay. It won't let me open it. It's like, I know you want to blaspheme against me.
There's a button you push and it pops open.
Wow. No, I just ripped it open and I'm going to throw it in this paper cup.
So Lauren, of course, is a documentary filmmaker. I mean, do you want to mention anything else about your work? You're doing work with Tenet Media now. We're all excited.
Yes, I'm with Tenet Media, which you are as well. A very exciting crew. We've got Matt Christensen, Taylor Hansen, Ruben, Benny Johnson. So you can go check them out. Tenet Media on YouTube. Watch Tenet Now on the Twitters, and I'll be doing videos and little mini docs for them, and hopefully some more documentaries for you as well. But if you want to check out some of my older film work, I've done Farmlands on South Africa, Borderless on the migrant crisis, American Mirage, Crossfire, and now Infringed. I've got quite the body of work, and the lovely Jon du Toit has helped me with a couple of those now. Three of them now. Yeah, you did Crossfire too.
Yeah, I did some work on Crossfire.
Yeah,
that's right.
Who are you, sir? What do you do?
Yeah.
Well, I'm Jon du Toit. I'm the guy who's behind the scenes. I'm behind the camera. So it's a real privilege and honor for me to be in front of the camera for once. And
you deserve the credit. You do.
Right. Thank you for having me.
This is blasphemy right here. But it's become a meme because she drank Pappy from a paper cup. For those that don't know, that's like, I don't know, $1,000 whiskey, or is it bourbon?
So how much does this cost? We earned this. We worked hard, okay?
Your point, that's like $300.
I just poured $300?
When you go to bars, they use eyedroppers to and they're very careful about drops. But we cracked this open when Elon finally secured Twitter and became X.
I should try it.
Jon wants some in an actual glass.
There we go.
Anyway, they're celebrating the release of the film. Absolutely. We also have Phil Labonte hanging out.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte, lead singer of All That Remains, very failed musician, and anti-communist and counter-revolutionary.
And I'm Ian Crossland. Happy to be here. I got Richie Jackson's gift, this wild shirt. Thanks, Richie. What's happening? The rock star himself. And Jon, good to see you. Lauren, obviously awesome. Good to see you. It's good to see you guys in front of the camera.
Thank you.
To my right is this man.
Ja, meneer de Toy. Good to see you, man. Goed om jullie gezien. Let me just adjust this quickly. Ready when you are, Tim.
Let's
go.
get it. Here's the first story from ABC 27. Voting machines in one Pennsylvania county flip votes for judges, an error to be fixed in tabulation. I love this. A quick correction for the beginning of the show. I said it was in one location. Actually, voting machines, plural, in a county were flipping votes. Check this out. They say voters were asked to decide whether Pennsylvania Superior Court judges Jack Piniella and Victor Stabile should be retained for additional 10-year terms. The yes or no votes for each judge were being switched because of the error, said Lamont Clure, the Northampton County executive. If a voter marked yes to retain Piniella and no, for example, for Stabile, it was reflected as no on Piniella and yes on Stabile, or however you pronounce that. Now, look, they're saying it's going to be fixed. The first question I have is, what if no one noticed? And more importantly, what if no one noticed any others? How are we supposed to? This is a huge problem, because right now, voter confidence is probably at an all-time low, considering 2020 and even 2022 midterms. And now with this, it's not even this. We got a bunch of other stories. Here we go. Let me see if I have we're getting there. Nick Sorter says, one of the top 5 most liberal voting precincts in Kentucky has been cleared out due to a supposed gas leak. Kentuckians are currently at the polls voting to decide whether or not they want to oust their Democrat Governor Andy Beshear and replace him with Trump-backed Daniel Cameron. Highland Baptist Church in Louisville will now be having extended voting hours after being shut down. We have this one. 2 Jefferson County polls get extended voting time after brief shutdowns. So this is a related story. We're basically getting it's not confidence building. Now I'll say it like this. I don't know if this matters in the big picture. These singular individual voting events. I think, let me clarify. I don't know if right now just this one thing matters. I think together, however, and the bigger picture matters, is what I'm trying to say. If you're getting stories like this and people already don't trust the system, it is going to shock confidence in our elections, which means it doesn't matter who wins. If the Democrat wins, the Republicans are going to point to these. And if the Republican wins, the Democrat's going to point to these. Democrats will say things like Republicans were so salty about 2020, they started manipulating with machines. And Republicans are going to say Democrats are here doing the same thing they've been doing. I don't see, when you look at what's going on already, and this is not even the biggest election day. I mean, come on, the primary voting is going to be bonkers. I'm not even talking about, November 2024, the general. What's going to happen when people go to vote in the primaries and they're getting weird things happening? What happens when people go to vote in the primary and a blue state's like, oh, whoopsie, you didn't vote for Trump, you voted for DeSantis or something like that?
What you should do is immediately release the software code of that machine. Because they're calling it an error. And was it an error, or was it supposed to do what it did?
Yeah, it's really weird to me how people have this very black and white view of voter fraud. It's like either it's not happening at all, and if you say it's happening, then you're an election denier, blah, blah, blah. Or it's like the whole system is rigged and you might as well not vote. Like, of course voter fraud is happening. Of course there are people tampering machines. Of course there are people stuffing ballots. We know this. People have been charged for this in the past. And as we're seeing, if you look at polls over time of where people are at on the political spectrum, everyone is pushing further to the fringes. And as that happens, people are going to feel it is more of a life or death situation to try to rig elections. Of course they're going to feel that way. Oh yeah, if I change this machine, I'm literally saving trans lives, or I'm literally saving the country from, whatever it might be. So I think we really need to be looking out for this. This doesn't mean don't vote at all. If anything, I think the media are the bigger election riggers than anyone in this. But yeah, there's a very real phenomenon happening more than we probably know.
This is why you need to make sure you go out and vote. There's 2 big things here. One, they want to demoralize you. Mm-hmm. For all you know, like for all the people who think there's a conspiracy to steal votes, maybe the real conspiracy is they want to convince you not to vote. Ooh. I don't believe they can rig as every single machine. Yeah. Now, see this story? This is really demoralizing. You mean even if I do go out and vote, they might flip my vote? Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it, because when I say they, I'm talking about your political opponents, and I don't care who they are. It's establishment, neo-lib, neocon, all of them. All of the people playing dirty politics want to convince you not to vote so that they can win. It's like that episode of South Park where they're voting for the giant douche and the turd sandwich. And then I can't remember what happened. I think like Kyle goes to Stan and he's like, you got to vote. And he's like, okay, I'll vote, I guess. And he's like, awesome. Wait, who are you voting for? He's like, I'm voting for the other guy. No, wait, don't vote. They want to convince you to vote, but if they find out you're going to vote for their opponent, they don't want you to vote.
I think if these machines are flipping votes intentionally, the more people that vote, the more likely it's going to get found out that they're flipping votes. So you should definitely vote. and pay close attention.
And be volunteering. Like, be involved in your local elections. Be involved in your local community. Half the people that are volunteering are going to be these activist types that are on welfare, that don't have jobs, that have all the time in the world. You go be involved in that. We should be at our local elections. We should be, the volunteers there, because that's going to be how you're going to spot this stuff.
Next year is going to be wild. I don't even know where to begin with it.
The fact that there's a lack of trust in the establishment essentially is, I think that the lack of belief in the soundness of the elections, that's baked into the distrust of the establishment. And the more we see people that are skeptical or that are cynical about voting or about the system, the more you're going to have things like people see essentially confirmation bias. They'll see something that seems anomalous or seems weird, and then they'll be like, well, I know it's definitely this, because all it takes is one small thing for people to be like, now I've seen enough to have my previous opinions confirmed, and so now it's not now the whole thing should be thrown away. And that's just a symptom of having a system that people are very cynical about. People are extremely mistrusting of the establishment media, the establishment when it comes to the government. And it's not just in the United States. I mean, you guys were talking about what Canada's like now. And this is a phenomenon. Yeah, and this is a phenomenon that's happening across basically the whole of Western society.
I do think what Lauren just said is consent to an American invasion of Canada.
Absolutely. Well, it would be of China.
All right, you got to wait till springtime. All right, it's cold up there.
I just want to let you know. You do know the founding fathers of the United States went to you guys and said, "Work like y'all were colonies too." And our guys were like, you guys want to get in on this? And you were like, nah, we're good.
They were like, we don't want the smoke, man.
We were burning down the White House, all right? We still had a bit going on for us.
The British did. We almost took Montreal.
Our ancestors.
I'm just saying.
Did you guys see the Canada election fraud stuff with the Chinese interference?
No, what happened?
No, Chinese
none of you guys saw. We have had hardcore.
Lauren, how many people live in Canada? Like 30-something million?
How can you guys not care about this? You're going to have a colony of China living above you, literally.
We're going to? Remember when the Chinese army went to Canada and was doing training drills?
Yep. Yeah, literally. And you guys don't care about this? When I was at the airport.
You're 3 hours your border's 3 hours from my house in New Hampshire. I damn well care. You know
Yeah,
this.
You should. Not only were the ads, the wait times for my flights were all in Chinese. Vancouver is becoming a Chinese majority city right now, and people are raising the Chinese Communist flag at City Hall and police stations and stuff. It's kind of wild. But yeah, we've had a proven by CSIS, our intelligence agency, Chinese influence campaign in Canada to win the election for Liberals. Donations, they've put out ads for students and Chinese only ads encouraging people that are Chinese in Canada to vote for Liberal politicians. And honeypots have been deployed. CSIS confirmed that against
maple pot
syrup pots in Canada.
Thank you, sir.
But full blown. And this is just not being talked about how our elections are literally being.
Well, it happened in 2015 as well, except it was the U.S. doing it. In the 2015 election was lead
I like that
and
though.
Things, yeah.
Wait, what was it for Liberals though?
It was deep state U.S. It was Liberals. They helped put
James O'Keefe had a report about power. James O'Keefe had a report about Chinese money flowing through Act Blue, I think. You were something big about that,
Lauren. You were talking about immigration. Is immigration largely from China in Canada? Is that the
That's
phenomenon?
What's interesting. We used to have a large amount of this, particularly BC, Vancouver, from Hong Kong, but it's flipped. It's in the single percentages for Hong Kong, and it's mostly mainland China now coming to BC, Vancouver. They call it Hongcouver. You're not supposed to say that out loud, but
gonna wait for that one.
it's
you can't say anything up there.
When you literally have enclaves. I was getting my nails done at the airport. True story. And the lady lives in Richmond, which is where the YVR airport is. And she's like, oh, yeah, I can't shop at certain stores. And she's not particularly political. She's just like, yeah, Richmond, BC.
Oh, okay.
Like Vancouver area. And she's like, yeah, they just don't want me shopping there because I'm white and I don't speak the language, the local language. You look at complexes being built in Richmond and all of the advertisements for buying are in Chinese. They're not in English. I could show you videos right now, all of the housing. We are a Chinese colony at this point.
So what is the voter fraud angle?
China is directly influencing our elections in Canada. They are deploying ad campaigns. They're deploying honeypots. They're involved in offering tons of money to liberal politicians because they want to continue to have large amounts of control over our students, economy. Right? And also money laundering. They call it snow washing in Canada. So tons of, I think it was, we have the same amount of money laundering as the UK, but we have about a 3% success rate at actually pursuing them legally compared to the UK.
I'm seeing it from Al Jazeera. This is from September, a couple months ago. Canada, what does this say? Canada opens inquiry into allegations of election meddling by China and Russia. I also saw from Bloomberg in 2021, China's alleged election meddling creates problem for Trudeau.
Look at this, AP reporting from September 2023. China announces public inquiry into whether China, Russia, and others interfered in elections.
Yeah, there's a whole investigation into it. It's all confirmed. It was, I think, a lot of it was broken by Global. No, it wasn't Global. It was Maclean's. I can't remember.
Americans, see, here's what happens in the revolutionary era, the era of independence in the United States. It wasn't just 13 colonies. Everyone says the original 13 colonies, but they don't realize that British colonies actually extend up into Canada. There's many of them. And the founding fathers, the same negotiations they're having with, say, Florida or South Carolina or whatever, are the same negotiations they're having with Quebec, another British colony. Well, up north, the Canadian, what is now Canada, was like, we're not interested in declaring independence. You're on your own. So it's actually a bunch of British colonies, and only some of them declared independence. Yeah. So I think what you see here is the United States has more descendants of rebels. There were more people here who were rebellious and willing to fight and die for independence than in Canada.
Absolutely.
Canada ends up with more people who are willing to play ball. They're more willing to say, look, I don't want to get into a fight. And this opens the door to heavy soft power from, say, China or Russia.
What are gun rights like in China? What are gun rights like
in China?
I want to make one more comment. You know what the most depressing part of all of this is? I don't even get my scam calls in English anymore.
Oh, I'm like, that's true in the United States too.
Is it?
My good friend Scam Likely calls very often, and it always leaves you a message.
You know that guy too?
Yeah,
Scam. What's he up to?
Scam Likely, that's his name.
You guys know telemarketer?
They're always in Chinese. I'm like, they actually expect when they call a Vancouver phone number, they're like, we're more likely to reach a Chinese person.
So have you picked up any Mandarin?
I need to, clearly.
You know what I think that is? I think that this is a big problem in the United States and in North America in general, where we're all getting these random phone calls, and it's been ongoing for a long time. When you answer it, you get an automated machine saying something in Mandarin you can't understand. But understand this, for you as an individual, having a minute or two of distraction, it's no big deal to your life. But for the entire country, China can calculate at the macro level. When we run these bots to call 7 million people per day, we depress the U.S. economy by 0.02% or something like this. True. It is the macro effect. As an individual, you don't care, but on the whole, it could be massive. I describe it like blackjack. At the table for the time, it's basically a coin toss between you and the house, but that 0.5% edge over the year means the casino will make money. Same thing for China doing these scam calls.
Well, you know what it does too? It makes people never pick up phone calls.
Exactly.
Like you get a call from a business that's actually like involved in your life and your community, wanting you to come out. You're not answering that. No one answers their phone. We were just talking about this morning. We don't answer our phones anymore.
I don't. I don't even have my ringer on. I keep my ringer off.
Did you guys hear about what happened with the banks?
No.
Past a week? All these different banks had payroll disruption. Mm-hmm. And people think it's like, so I didn't get my paycheck for a few hours. It was kind of annoying. Hold on. Let's say 1 million people are expecting their paycheck right when they wake up. Instead, they get it at 4 p.m. How many of these people living paycheck to paycheck had a bill that was due that day?
Yeah. The same thing happened in Canada a few months ago. With TD. They missed payroll. And and there's people who are moving into new homes, and
people's rent that was missed. I think Trudeau even had to do a statement about it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then what? They charge people overdraft fees that get them. That's insidious.
Yeah.
If a bank can't give you your payroll, they cannot charge you an overdraft.
Good luck. They don't care.
Man, that's like stuff. Use your and now we've Second Amendment right, your First Amendment right.
The Sixth Bank this year just collapsed in the United States. was it like Iowa Savings and Loan or something like that, just collapsed?
I got to ask. So the American colonies split off from the Canadian colonies long 250 years ago. What are gun rights like in Canada from then to now? What have they? What was the establishment and existence of weapons rights?
There's it's been pretty good, but there's
Well, it wasn't rights,
this
though.
short period when a certain politician got elected that they all seemed to disappear overnight. I can't Trudeau, right? Yeah, no. Immediately as he came in, like 2020, they got rid of AKs, M4s, M16s, 1,500 weapons, like all overnight, gone. Added to restricted, can't buy anymore. And then after the Uvalde shooting, because of course Uvalde is in Canada and this really affects us, and the gun used was definitely a gun that's legal in Canada, not one that doesn't even... Anyway, it made no sense. He banned handguns while we were filming the documentary, infringed, so you can't purchase, transfer them anymore. And this is going to keep happening over and over. They're floating bills to ban things like the Plinkster, which is literally like, to shoot tin cans, and they're talking about banning these guns. If Trudeau and the Liberals stay in for another, they win the next election,
It was never...
we're not going to have guns.
I want to jump to the story, which will lead us into a bigger conversation about gun control. This is from the Post Millennial. YouTube removes Steven Crowder's reporting on trans Nashville shooter manifesto, claiming violation of violent criminal organizations policy. So Crowder does this big breaking story. It is now confirmed, verified, several pages of the manifesto, I should say of the journal and documents from the individual, showing an anti-white motivation. It may not be the only motivation, but it appears to be that woke critical race theory was a component of what drove the individual to go and take the lives of several children and faculty members. Now, right off the bat, I just want to say this. I think one of the big reasons why the mainstream press and many political individuals, politicians, are suppressing that story is not because of the fear of the privacy or anything like that, violating privacy. It's because they always want to immediately jump to gun control.
Yeah.
Anytime something like this happens, it's not what was the cause behind this. It was all that matters is guns. Yet in Chicago, guns don't really matter. In Baltimore, it's not really. It's only when there's violent extremism. And I think the issue is whether it be even whatever you describe, identitarian extremism, whether it's pro or anti-white, they want to use these things for political gain, and they want to push away any responsibility they may have for their failed gun policies. So I want to say that as we start this segment, shout out, go to timcast.com, watch Infringed, become a member if you haven't already. For those that are just tuning in, go to timcast.com, right on the front page, you will see a Lauren Southern film, Infringed Gun Rights in America. It is nearly 2 hours. You got to watch it. You guys did amazing work on this. But let's break this down. YouTube has a bunch of crazy rules on guns. They take it very, very seriously. Now, I think it's fair to a certain degree, right? YouTube says no live streaming any kind of gun content. And I'm like, their concern is that someone's going to go on a rampage. But I honestly don't think that makes sense. You can't post any kind of violent criminal activity on YouTube at all. Why ban live streams? I think the big issue, YouTube, Facebook, and probably Instagram, they don't want people promoting gun rights in the United States or anywhere, and they can't just outright remove it. But there have been a bunch of issues that have happened with YouTube a while and Google. I remember this is a really funny story. Back in 2018, YouTube banned guns from shopping. And they were so stupid, they banned Gundam Wing. Do you guys know what Gundam is?
Oh, I know Gundam.
Gundam is an anime, and it's Gundam, and they're giant fighting Japanese robots in space.
Yeah.
And Google banned people trying to buy it because they were trying to suppress the word gun. So I certainly think it's overtly political, and they are working. Let me just add this to it. When we learned a while ago, but now with confirmation from the GOP, that the government is colluding with Stanford University and big tech organizations to silence and suppress the rights of individuals, absolutely YouTube and Facebook are taking a political stance to suppress our rights, first and second.
What I don't get is I feel like I see these videos on YouTube of like a dude walking into a shop, and then the shop pulls out his weapon and fires at the guy, and like they're all on YouTube.
What do you mean, like a movie?
Videos? What's that?
Like a movie?
No, like security camera footage of a guy coming in to rob a store. Are you sure? Because I'll see like people
that's on
doing.
X. That's
for
on
sure
Twitter,
on X,
Twitter
but
X.
like it'll be like a guy doing talking about the video, and then the guy will walk in and he'll pull out the gun and like.
If it's like a mainstream media channel, I remember after some of the mass shootings that happened, and the whole monetization video issue came about on YouTube. Like Jimmy Fallon Tonight, Jimmy Kimmel, all of these people were able to do videos about the mass shootings that were monetized, but no one else could. So you may have seen that on mainstream media channels go ahead.
There are a couple channels that do cover that. There's one called Active Self-Protection, which I forget the guy's name, but he actually covers international stuff. A lot of times you'll have stuff from South America, but it's always some kind of security footage, and he will go over what could have been done better if it was an actual self-defense shooting, if it was
it's
just
probably not monetized though.
Yeah,
probably
Donut
not.
operators
I don't
in the
imagine
film does that too.
Yeah, Donut does the same.
Protection has 3 million subscribers.
Donuts, yeah.
So I think I don't want to talk about the strategies people use to get around.
Then we won't.
these
Right,
issues.
Yeah, it's not straightforward. Let's put it that way.
No, it's not.
But and we know there are a lot of very serious rules. I remember that a bunch of the big gun YouTubers were talking about the restrictions that were placed, and they're weird and hard to understand. But I think it's fair to say YouTube taking down this manifesto serves nothing but the gun control narrative and the left liberal establishment narrative. If it comes out, it's not just about guns. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
it's also about critical race theory, diversity, equity, inclusion. It's like, the extremist ideology of the left is resulting in extremists taking action as a component. There's more to this story. We haven't gotten the full release here. But I think a core component is there are powerful interests that want to ban guns in government and the private sector. And it is beneficial if you can shut down any motivating, any information on motivation. So then when no one knows what happened, you can say, guess we got to ban guns.
Yep.
I'm concerned that and I always hate to pin it on the CCP because I want the United States and China to be allies long term. But like for them to be like, hey, Alphabet, Google's parent company, money. You want to roll in China? We don't want you to have certain gun rights things. And like, what are they really trying to get the United States to screw itself by removing its own amendments? Like, come on, like our Constitution is more important than corporate oligarchy, and we cannot let foreigners stop us from exercising our rights and cherishing our rights.
Yeah, it's actually, there's always the point of, why arm yourself? The government's so powerful, they'll just nuke you, whatever. Well, it's actually very hard to fight large, populations that are all armed and spread out in a diaspora, whether you're in rice fields or in the Middle East. It's always proven difficult. And if you can just psychologically disarm a population by convincing them that they don't want or need or even have these things in their awareness. It's so funny. Actually, when I was checking in for my flight on the way here, there was a sign behind us that said, declare if you have a gun. And the Canadian guy standing beside me was asking the lady, do a lot of people actually bring guns from here, Vancouver? And the lady was like, believe it or not, they do. And he's like, I thought no one owned them. And this was a conversation I witnessed. They want that to be the average person's thought process. They want the average person to not even conceptualize or conceive that. Why would I need a gun? No one does that. That's for hicks.
It's a long-term strategy, right?
Yeah.
So
they've been largely successful, I think, honestly. Like, unless you're a person that is... It tends to be people that are pro Second Amendment in the U.S. They tend to be people that are also politically motivated, politically active. The reason that there hasn't been success in the U.S. with significant anti-gun legislation and gun control, the reason that there's been victories for the past 20 or so years so predominantly is because of the fact that the people that are pro-gun are so politically active. The idea that there's a lot of money going to individual Congress people from the gun industry, that's a fallacy. The money that's going to the money that is actually big money is from Raytheon. They're making missile batteries. They're making drones. They're making serious the kind of weaponry that's sold to states. The companies that make small arms generally don't have these big contracts, and they're not giving tons of money. The idea that the NRA is responsible is a fallacy. Most gun owners really look at the NRA as a meme and as a joke, and it's where all the FUDs go. So the idea that it's something other than grassroots preventing significant legislation, that's all a fallacy.
But I think we're winning.
Yeah, for sure. We're so lucky that the 20th century was televised and recorded, because what Hitler did was so egregious. He disarmed his population and then sent in the shock troops to control them. And that will never happen again.
Well, I think you got a correction for us.
Sorry?
I think you got a correction for what Ian just said.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
It's in the documentary.
Yeah, that's right. There's a meme that says that Hitler, he took all the guns, right? But it actually started right after World War I.
Yeah.
And Germany, because they lost the war, they had to abide by the Treaty of Versailles, and in that treaty was required that they disarm the citizens. So it was in Japan.
That was 1920, right?
1919, 1920. So it was the Allies that actually required that of Germany to disarm the population.
So they disarmed the enemy.
They used a policy that was already in place against the people. And this is what's so interesting is we always say like,
same thing in China.
we're going to put in these policies for our side of politics, like for the lefties. But you guys don't realize that as soon as a government that you really disagree with gets in power, they can utilize those policies against you.
But here's
like
the important
Germany.
An important point that was brought up in Infringed. In 1920, Germany's forced to disarm their population. In 1928, they reintroduced permitting and gun registry. You want to own a gun, you got to prove that you need it for a legitimate reason to defend yourself, and then you can apply for a permit and register. And then
now you're on the list.
Now you're on the list, and when the Nazis come to power, they have a list of everyone who is armed, and they start hunting those people down.
And then, of course, the Nazis too. They relaxed gun restrictions for Nazi Party members, but then if you're a Jew, you are not allowed to own a gun. So again, gun control is not about your safety. Right?
Gun control is not about controlling guns. It's about using guns to control you.
And this is like why these lists are so important too. Like the registries in Canada, the long gun registries they tried to put in. And right now, actually, this January, the ATF are bringing in, you need to register your stabilizing braces with the ATF, or you need to hand in modified guns with them. These registries are all to be used
and
against you eventually.
Phil, didn't the Supreme Court overturn the pistol brace?
Currently, there's a stay on the enforcement of the pistol brace. It's only for people that are members of GOA and FPC, which are both great pro-gun organizations, Firearms Policy Coalition and Gun Owners of America.
So wait,
but they have the actual lawsuit against the ATF, and so their members are covered under the state.
Only their members.
Only their members.
So what if you sign up right now?
You can join now, and you will be covered by the stay, but you have to be a member of either the Firearms Policy Coalition, it's Gun Policy, it's at Gun Policy on Twix, and or you have to be a member of GOA. Both are great. I'm a little partial to Firearms Policy Coalition because they're a little more hoist the black flag kind of dudes, and I like that. But you have to be covered. You have to be a member of either of those two. Otherwise, a brace is currently a felony, and you'll get 10 years, $250,000 fine if you have a braced an AR-15. They'll basically they'll be treating it as a short barrel rifle unless you're a member of those two.
I think I'm a member of like all of them, to be honest. I think like one day I just went to like every gun rights organization and started donating.
What does it take to become part of it?
A donation, give them your information.
So like for Canada to have a gun license, you have to have a gun club that you're a part of or a range that you're a member of, right? You have to have your PAL, your RPAL if you want to own anything that's got some real firepower or kick behind it. And you got to have like your ammo, gun separate. Guns have to be locked, have a trigger lock on them, ammunition. Like what do you guys have? Any of that comparable?
Yes,
here?
Depends where.
We have we have a handful of states that people refer to as the Evil Seven.
Seven.
He's right.
Yeah, and when I lived in New Jersey, we had some security, concerns, and this is before I bought a gun. So I decided, I need to get a gun. Well, the cops told me. Well, I was told by a cop, if it were me, I'd answer the door with a shotgun. That's all. He didn't say go buy a gun. He was like, you know what I'm saying, and I'm like, okay. And then I was told by the police, if someone were to try to break into my home, I can do nothing. If someone is actively at my door, smashing out the window and reaching in to open the door, I cannot take action against that person.
Yeah. It's like Canada.
Because it would be murder. Now, if he breaks into your home, now it's a different story. Because if he breaks into your home, you are legally required to flee your home, and you still can't defend yourself.
It's just like Canada.
Yeah. And I said, where would I go? I'm in my house. This is where I live.
Yeah.
And then what I was told was, when you tell that to a judge, you are saying in court, I would rather kill a man than stand outside. And that's the way the court will interpret what you are saying. And that is considered unreasonable. And they said, only if you are trapped. And I said, So if I'm backed into a corner with no doors and a guy in front of me, I can shoot him then. And what if he dies? Say, okay, that's the best part. You will now have an affirmative defense after we arrest you and charge you with a felony, and you spend 6 months in prison. You can tell a judge you were trapped. Hopefully he believes you. And I was like, holy crap. Maryland's a little better. If you are outside your house watering your lawn and a guy comes up to you threatening you, you must run into your house. If the man then tries to break into your house, what I am told by law enforcement, you can then defend yourself. So actually, to a much greater degree than New Jersey, but West Virginia by far is substantially better. West Virginia, you can be on any property, whether you're indoors or outdoors, and if you are threatened, you can defend yourself. You can't just shoot anybody. This is not true. Like someone walks on your property, you're like, aha, he's coming right for me. But if you are threatened and you can justify the threat, Florida's even crazier, and Texas too. Stand your ground. Very little probable cause. You could be anywhere legally. West Virginia also, it is still very similar. If you're in West Virginia, you're constitutional carry, you're walking around, someone threatens you, and you have reasonable fear of great bodily harm or death, you can defend yourself.
Dude, I was in Florida like 3 weeks ago for like 3 weeks, and I was feeling that the concealed carry thing. I was walking around like at night and looking at people, and I'm like, they all probably have guns. Just to see everyone's
Except
got a gun,
me.
and they're all looking at me and thinking he's probably got a gun, and we all just have massive respect for each other.
It's called herd immunity.
Yeah.
I mean, if you are in a place where you can legally carry a gun, I mean, essentially you are kind of rolling the dice. Like, that person may have a gun. Do I really want? Is the fact that he bumped into me or looked at me wrong, is it worth making a comment over? Because maybe it escalates to something very bad. And if you're carrying a gun, you definitely you have to know that you can't just be like, oh, that guy's giving me a dirty look, so I'm just going to mean mug him all night long, because you're responsible for de-escalating. These are things that you have to understand.
Have a gun too.
Exactly.
One thing that always bothered me growing up in Chicago is that I had friends who would road rage, and I'd be like, people who weren't from the South Side who didn't get it, I guess, and they'd either come from different neighborhoods or from the suburbs. We'd be driving on the highway, someone would cut them off, and they'd switch lanes, speed up and start flicking them off and screaming at them. And I'm like, bro, do you know how many stories I can tell you about a dude getting shot in the face because he decided to road rage out for no reason? I'm not saying that, you've got to back down. I'm saying choose your battles. You ain't gaining nothing by screaming at a dude in the highway and swerving around. If someone cuts you off, choose your battles. Just, it happens, man. Don't get bent out of shape. But dude, some people I knew would rage out. And there's so many stories where there's dudes with illegal guns. Now, I actually don't think the guns should be illegal, to be completely honest. People who have acquired guns in ways the state does not like, but you have a right to keep and bear arms. That being said, they acquire these guns in illegal ways, and that means they do not have good intentions. And you can't defend yourself from them because you can't have a gun. Now, because of DC versus Heller, you can have guns, but they still make it near impossible. And only recently, I think there's still issues with Maryland. Maryland was an in practice no issue state, meaning even though they say you can apply for a permit, they would never give you one. New York was similar, New Jersey was similar. Now with the latest, was it Bruin? I think the latest Supreme Court hearing, they're like, you have to give permits if people request one. So now I think Maryland's still giving people the business. But New York has started issuing permits. So
the catalyst for me leaving Massachusetts and going to New Hampshire was the last straw was when I went to the police officer, and the police went through the whole rigmarole, asked for a license to carry, and the issuing officer just flat out said, we don't give them out in the town that I'm in. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't give them out? And this is back in 2010 or so.
I want to jump to the story from bearingarms.com. Will SCOTUS intervene in Illinois assault weapons case? This is big news. This could, look, let me just first start this segment by saying we're winning. I think more than half the country is already in some form constitutional carry. Though Florida only allows concealed carry without a permit, you can't open carry, which is interesting. But I think more than half the country, something like 26 states, it's now constitutional carry, meaning if you live in the state, you get an ID, you can walk into a gun store. You can say, I'd like to purchase a gun, fill out the federal background check form. Once you clear, you can buy the gun. You don't need a permit from the state. However, they're trying to ban assault weapons. And as we learned in the documentary Infringed that just came out, nobody even knows what that means. It has no universal definition. And anybody who knows anything about guns knows there is no such thing as an assault weapon.
Somewhat similar to the What is the Woman documentary. We went around and we interviewed everyone. So what is an assault weapon? And that is the conclusion we came to. Not a single person could define it.
It works to their advantage, right? Because
yes, absolutely.
In Biden's State of the Union, he was talking about shooting that happened with a handgun.
Yeah.
And then, at the end he goes, ban assault weapons now. Okay, but you just talked about a handgun.
People don't...
It's a semi-automatic handgun.
People don't understand that, and thankfully for it, but the people that are anti-gun for a long time haven't wanted to educate themselves about guns. And what's unfortunate and what they're starting to learn now is really what they're after is semi-automatic. Yeah, because that's what...
So first, I'm assuming 99% of people who watch the show know what semi-automatic means. It means when you pull the trigger, a single bullet comes out. Yeah. You had that great clip in Infringed of Michael Bloomberg saying, semi-automatic, they pull the trigger back and it just goes pop, 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 pop. Not true. Yeah. Let me read this from Bearing Arms. This is important. They say, today's Supreme Court arguments focused on the federal prohibition on firearms possession for those subject to a domestic violence restraining order. And in the months ahead, the court will hear cases involving the ATF's administratively imposed ban on bump stocks, as well as a First Amendment case brought by the National Rifle Association against a New York official that the group contends illegally pressured private companies not to work with the organization. They go on to say that now 2A activists in the land of Lincoln are ready to try their luck at the Supreme Court once again, this time after the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals recently overturned an injunction and allowed the state's ban on so-called assault weapons and large capacity magazines to be enforced. In their decision, the 3-judge panel concluded that AR-15s and other arms labeled, quote, assault weapons by Illinois lawmakers are not protected by the Second Amendment at all because semi-automatic rifles are like machine guns, which the court declared are not protected weapons in the Heller decision. The actual phrasing was weapons that are most useful in military service, M16 rifles, and the like. But the Supreme Court has also said that arms that are in common use for lawful purposes are protected. This could be big. This could mean that we finally end this stupid fake assault weapon argument. Right. There is no such thing as an assault weapon. Now, by all means, if they wanted to draft a simple statement as to what an assault weapon was, let's hear it. The issue? Assault weapon is a nebulous term intentionally used to scare people to try and gain control.
Exactly. And you saw this with like the Cody Wilson interview, the Ghost Gunner, right? Where he talks about how the ATF are constantly playing this cat and mouse game with him with just the definition of a gun, a rifle in general. He's like, in order to restrict and control us, they want to make the polymer 80 like that has to be a gun. The primordial form, then he creates just a block, the 0% receiver, right? Now the ATF is going to have to designate that a gun in order to track that down. And they will keep changing the definition because they want to be able to control it at all costs possible.
0% receiver. Okay, so it's a metal block. It's just a rectangle of metal. And a CNC machine, which basically cuts metal, can cut it into a receiver.
Yeah, it's a desktop CNC machine that they make at Ghost Gunner that you can buy. And then they, if you want to manufacture,
if you're interested,
if you want to manufacture a lower receiver with it, they will send you the aluminum block in the mail, and you just put it into the CNC.
So the story here is that companies used to sell what's called an 80%, which is not a complete gun, but it's components of. And the ATF said no, because people can make a gun with it, it's a gun officially. So Ghost Gunner just sells blocks, and then the issue here is it's actually First Amendment. That 3D printed guns are just knowledge, the knowledge or the file, the document that can make the weapon. Yeah, information. The issue is that 3D printing and at home CNC, cutting metal and stuff, it's cheap and ubiquitous. So this is one of the big challenges that 3D printed guns, the cat's out of the bag, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't stop the signal.
It's going to be crazy when they start like registering USB drives as guns. And
I will say,
unironically.
Yeah, unironically, exactly.
Everybody should definitely get safety training. Don't take this stuff lightly. I just read a crazy story where some guy in Brazil was goofing off like a moron. And his girlfriend was filming him laughing, and he pointed a gun at her, and now she is no longer alive. No. Guns? See, this is the thing. I feel like when Alec Baldwin killed that woman,
Helena Hutchins
with a gun, the left defended him, saying it's not his fault. And I'm like, the craziest thing in the world to me is that the gun control people are saying a dude who pointed a loaded weapon at a woman and killed her, had live ammo in his belt, it's not his fault. And all of the gun control people are like, you are responsible for whatever comes out of the barrel of a gun you are holding. I'm like, how are the gun control people excusing this guy?
There are 4 rules, and that's it. At the end of the day, there are 4 rules. Keep your finger straight and off the trigger. Never point a gun at anything that you wouldn't destroy. Treat every gun as if it's loaded, and know your target and what's behind it at all times. If you follow those rules, no one dies. Period.
Well, sometimes.
Well, I mean, if you no one dies by mistake.
Yeah. The point is, those are basic rules that you're taught immediately all the time to dramatically minimize stupidity, which results in people getting seriously hurt. However, but let's be real. You need to understand and respect firearms because misfires happen. Like instructors sometimes have issues. There's a lot of things that can go wrong.
But no one hates bad gun users more than other gun users because they ruin it for everyone. No one will be more outspoken against the Alec Baldwins of the world than the donut operators and the Brandon Herreras who want you to use your guns properly.
Just put a picture up of you holding a gun with poor trigger discipline with your finger on, and you're going to hear about it forever.
Exactly. You'll never live it down.
Correctly, we'll hear about it.
When I was in Egypt, we had to go to the state media building to get press cards so that you wouldn't get arrested for being there. To walk into the state building, they have armed guards standing on both sides of the walled entrance, and these people do not have what is referred to as muzzle discipline. They're holding all their weapons like this, and so I limboed. I'm just like, bro, that 18-year-old Egyptian dude holding an AK straight up at head level, I would rather limbo and have them laugh than like walk past that dude. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I got the internet. I seen what happens.
Most people just didn't care and they walked past him. And I'm just like, I'm going to go like this and loop my head around because. But
you have awareness around firearms.
Yeah.
Like you are watching, you understand. And that's even if someone doesn't want to own a firearm, having an understanding of how they work is a pretty damn critical skill.
It's humbling.
It's humbling, absolutely.
Too, is you see all these clips like, they'll. They will pull the trigger and the shot doesn't go off, and then they're like, "Oh, what's wrong?" And then they look down the barrel.
Oh man!
Don't do that.
No weapons.
No, I want to stress the Alec Baldwin thing. They're saying they may bring charges again, but just understand this: when these liberal people want to defend Alec Baldwin simply because he's a liberal, listen, just understand this. This is what we try to call out. The dude had reportedly live bullets in his gun belt on his person. He had a single action revolver. Yeah. So you got to pull the hammer back and then you got to pull the trigger. He lied about pulling the trigger. There was a forensic conclusion that the trigger had to have been depressed the only way it would have fired. There was a live round in the chamber. I say outright, if you are handed a gun and it can fire bullets, you are responsible for what comes out of the end of it.
Even if it's a blank.
Yeah,
exactly. Blanks kill people,
right?
And they don't understand this. And the argument Alec Baldwin said was, if I were to have opened it to check, they would have rushed over and taken it from me for tampering with it.
That
and
makes
I'm like,
no sense.
Hollywood is broken if they are handing random people weapons that those people have not checked. Don't follow those policies. That gets people hurt, and we saw it with Alec Baldwin.
There are. I did a few videos on this, and there are rules within like the Actors Guild and set workers, and you can go and read them, and they're pretty standardized. Most people know them, and it says both the weapons handler and the actor is supposed to check. So I don't know if he said that. That's insane because that's a pretty standard. You can talk to any weapons expert in Hollywood, and they all will affirm
But
both
live bullets
are
on
to check.
set. That is never okay.
Yeah, that blows my mind.
Like how does that happen? Right?
I can't even imagine how that happened.
They claim that people were goofing off and
shooting cans for hours. And shooting cans with the guns you are going to be using on set. I'm sorry, what?
It is insane to me. You get all these liberals being like, it's not his fault. He's just an actor. And
but again, it's that mentality, right? It's not hypocrisy. It's hierarchy.
Exactly.
What are Hollywood people doing shooting cans on their spare time anyway?
Yeah, he was a producer on that film, letting that happen.
I want to jump to this story and get back into the more partisan politics here. This is from the Post-Millennial. Breaking: home of suspect in the killing of an elderly Jewish man at pro-Palestinian protest has been searched by police. For those that didn't see the story, an elderly Jewish man was, I believe the reporting is he was struck in the head by a pro-Palestinian activist, fell down, hit his head, and died. Get this. First, the breaking news on the story is that they're searching for this. They're searching this guy's house. Take a look at this tweet from End Wokeness. An old Jewish man was murdered by a pro-Palestine activist. The medical examiner already ruled it a homicide. This is the media coverage. CNN, man in California dies after suffering head injury at pro-Israel, pro-Palestinian demonstrations. Here's one. Jewish man dies after hitting head in altercation. Here's one. Jewish man dies after altercation. And here's another one. Jewish man dies from injury suffered in Israel-Palestine rally.
Incredible.
There was, I think it was the Daily Mail, I tweeted this out, said, elderly Jewish man dies after falling and hitting head. It's just absolutely incredible. So I went through all these stories. I want to point out something else. If you go to the Anti-Defamation League's extremism map, the Nashville shooter is not even listed. So they all claim in the media that the right is a big threat. Oh, the right wing. A completely disorganized group of disparate ideologies, some that don't even agree with each other. That's the big threat. It's just random lone wolves when there is something they call right wing. And when you get the far left extremism, they don't even put it on the map. Right. They don't track it and the cops don't go after it. They go after it in a certain sense, but they don't call it terror. They'll call it just, an unfortunate tragedy or something.
I don't know how to explain how it feels being banned from a country for hatred or what is it, racism, because I called out Islam not liking gay people very much, had a pride parade, and then to see the same streets filled with people like calling for death.
Are you still banned from the UK?
As far as I know, yeah.
And you did like this pop-up pointing out that Islam is anti-LGBTQ.
Yeah.
So they said, get out and don't come back.
Get out and don't come back. And then you have a bunch of people that have immigrated there, not everyone, obviously. There are supporters of Palestine that aren't chanting these things, of course, but there were people chanting death to the, I don't know if I can say it on,
LGBT and stuff. Like more
and other groups. I don't know what I can say on YouTube these days, it's saying these things. And then none of them they're not even like citizens. They're not being deported. And
well, did you see when the guys were flying the English flag, the cops were like, you got to put that flag away. It's inciting people. And then a couple of guys were flying the Union Jack, which is the flag of Great Britain, not just England. And they said, look, mate, there's more of them than us. Put the flag away. Yeah. And a lot of people were like, that's it. When you can't fly the flag of your own country in your country because people who are not from your country are threatening violence against you, that's a crazy prospect. I think what we're seeing now with this guy being killed and the bias, look, how many Jewish or right-wing protesters went to far left events and killed Antifa guys? It's not happened. What we see consistently is the far left engaging in acts of violence, and then they get excused by the media. The media acts like nothing happened and no one was there. And then they say, oh, look, because there's no reporting on this, that proves the right's the bigger threat.
Steve Scalise, I believe, currently has a colostomy bag because he was shot by a far left Bernie bro supporter at the congressional baseball game. Yeah. Rand Paul was at that same very baseball game. He had to hit the deck for cover. Rand Paul's been attacked at his home. He was attacked walking in D.C. one time. Right. He was attacked at his home. There's the guy that you were talking about today, Jay,
Aaron Danielson.
Yeah, Eric Danielson
Aaron Danielson.
Oh, Aaron Danielson.
I think it was Portland that happened? Or
So he was shot.
You guys want to know something really, really, really funny? When you look up the killing of Aaron Danielson on the ADL's website, it says Michael Reinl, an Antifa activist, shot and killed a right-wing extremist.
There's no reason to believe he was an extremist at all.
He was just some dude walking on the street.
And then there's all
angering.
More to the point. There's also the kid that was killed by the driver. Specifically said that he was after him because he was a Trump supporter, and I'm sure that is not treated as a political murder because they try to talk it down now.
And in the 2016 election, we saw so many instances of violence against Trump supporters. I mean, it was just ubiquitous, but it wasn't covered in the media. And Mike Cernovich went to the White House, in the press briefing room, and he just called it out, and they were laughing at him.
Yeah.
Laughing at him. That was a response, right? But we were saying this stuff back then already. Look where it is now.
Yeah.
Here, let me pull this up. This is from the ADL's website. It says, August 29, 2020, left wing, Michael Reinl, an Antifa activist, shot to death a member of a right-wing extremist group during a protest in Portland.
Unbelievable.
It's factually false.
So
it was a guy walking down the street. There was no event. The event was over. And Michael Reinl, who has a communist and extremist tattoo on his neck, walked up to him and shot him twice in the chest.
Yeah, that's in your Doc Crossfire, right?
Yeah.
And the way it's framed, it's like, well, this is an anti-fascist person doing anti-fascist things, right? That's
activism.
How
No, this was an extremist who sought out a person on the right to kill. But when they continually lie, cheat, and steal and obfuscate these things. Now, look, I'm not saying, that the right is more or less. We had this conversation with Stephen Marsh on the culture war. He says there's more seditionists on the right. I think that's actually factually incorrect. I don't know what he means by the right, and he couldn't define it either, and he said it wasn't helpful, and I agree with him. It was funny because he was criticizing me for saying the left and the right, and I was like, well, what do you say then? Because then he said, he goes, look, you keep saying like the left and the right. I'm like, what does that even mean? Now, when you talk to the right, when they say these things, I was like, right there. Like, what does it really mean? We don't know. But I can tell you that what we see in the press always ignores. Let me tell you, the Summer of Love riots was a mass death incident. How many deaths qualify for a mass death incident?
More than 3, is it?
It's 4, I think.
4?
Right? Something
yeah,
like that.
30 deaths in the Summer of Love riots. So what's the issue?
They have to happen all within like 20 minutes of each other.
Well,
it has to be white people responsible. Then it has to be a
right.
mass
So
death.
so my point is this: the riots were one thing, fueled by one thing, led by people of a shared ideology, which resulted in the death of between 24 and 36 people. That's a mass death incident facilitated by the left. And the issue is exactly as I describe it. It is this widespread terror and blunt force violence. And when it reaches that level, people die. Now, by all means, be worried and upset that there are, right-wing militias or whatever it is you're concerned about. If someone actually is committing violence or threatening to do so, we should stop them. What do we get? We get the weird fake kidnapping plot, and then we get nothing from Chaz Chop. You think the ADL's reporting on the fact that 2 guys unloaded hundreds of rounds from a rifle into a white SUV? They don't do anything about it.
I think you're right. We need to be on guard against far right extremism as well, because I think Chase Geiser was saying like if the pendulum were to swing, he feels, I think he identified himself, he was on the show last night as right wing or whatever, part of the conservative movement or whatever, that if the power were to come back, we need to have a cool head, like maintain. You don't want people to go nuts in any direction from any, and like it's just, we got to make sure that we don't radicalize people and then we're on guard against radicalization. It really doesn't matter what direction.
I forget where I read this, but someone was talking about violence, and they said the people on the left treat violence like a knob that you can turn up and down, and they'll turn it up and they'll turn it down depending on the politics of the day.
Yes.
People on the right treat violence like an on-off switch. Right. You're voting. Now it's gunfight time, and that really does speak to the character of people on the right and the left. The people on the right really do want to work within the system, and they want to believe in the system because they're not nihilists the way that people on the left are. A lot of times, people on the right, if they're not in an organized religion, they have some kind of connection to spirituality and stuff, and so they believe in right and wrong. People on the left don't generally believe in right and wrong, and we had I forget what his name when we on the
Culture War,
the Culture War on Friday.
Stephen Marsh.
So he was talking about, he mentioned
morality is meaningless.
Yeah, morality is meaningless, and so for him, it's clearly something that is not black and white. Whereas people on the right tend to be like, it's not time for violence. It's not time for violence. Kill everyone in the room.
Look, Stephen Marsh, I think he's a good dude in the sense that he's willing to come and have a conversation, but I think he's a bad dude, with all due respect, because he said he believes children should have access to these adult material books.
Oh, I wish I was there with
and
you
he
guys
doesn't care.
for
He
that
doesn't care.
conversation.
He says morality means nothing to me, and I said that's the problem right there. You have moral people who decide for logical reasons some things are off limits. Why? Well, the people who are exposed to twisted content and twisted practices end up becoming very, very unhappy. We're trying to reduce self-harm, reduce depression, maximize productivity and happiness.
This is very well recorded. Like you can look at if porn is exposed to boys at very young ages, they tend to go for more and more extreme things as they age, to the point where they have normalized like violence against the other gender, because that's the only thing that can get them off now. And this is very well studied. Anyone can look it up. And yeah, it's totally has to do with particularly with exposure at young ages, where you don't really have that decision-making skill, prefrontal cortex totally developed yet.
That's actually when we were talking about the news media trying to protect like the guy who punched the dude that died. And it's like, I can see that. I think that their idea is, I don't want to expose society to the fact that it was a Palestinian guy or a guy that was pro-Palestine punching a guy that was pro-Israel, because they don't want to like twist the minds of the people, but I
think that's
it's not
cover because if you, I've talked about this guy Herbert Marcuse before on the podcast. He wrote a paper in the 60s.
One-Dimensional Man.
He wrote the book called One-Dimensional Man, but he wrote a paper, an essay called that I believe he called it On Tolerance, but it was called Repressive Tolerance. And the argument that he made in it was if it is left wing, it is acceptable to be violent. And that it is okay because you're doing it for a good reason. That's the long and short of it. It's ridiculous and it's childlike, but it's also the type of mindset that you see coming from the left. You see it in the media when they don't talk about things that the left does, or they talk them down, or it's not that big of a deal. And yet, if the right one of the things that he said is you should censor people on the right at the level of thought. If you can control people's thoughts, then they will not carry out violence. And it, like I said, it's called the paper's called on toleration on repressive tolerance. It's worth a read. It's not very long, but it really does lay out the type of logic that leftists tend to be using when they apply to everything, and you see it in society now.
It's amazing how they can create life or death situations out of everything. You know, you say it's a knob, but like I'll notice with leftists, they'll be like, you're trying to kill trans children. And that'll be like what they're saying in their rallies. And this is why we have to have these extreme responses. And I'm like, holy, if you spent like 1 second in the body of like just a 19-year-old white kid in university experiencing their life, you would become a Nazi overnight, because you'd be like, the oppression I am facing, it's like nothing. It's not comparable. You have the corporations, the banks, the government, the media, all these people on your side, and you still think it's a life or death oppression situation. Imagine having none of that.
in the documentary Infringed, we're going to keep plugging it because we want you to watch it. You talk to a guy in Berkeley. You're going around asking people at Berkeley, do they want to ban guns? And then you finally meet one guy who's like, no. And then he says he's a gay Republican. And then you're like, do you feel safe? And he's like, well, you know, kind of not really.
Yeah.
I got some questions about Infringed. Maybe you guys can answer them for me since you did it. How many guns did you fire over the course of the shooting? That's a funny word, shooting. Isn't that a weird metaphor?
Filming.
Shooting the movie.
Shooting.
With your round count.
I can't count. The most guns would have been at the astronaut cum ranch.
Right. Yeah.
What?
Cum ranch.
What?
Sounds intriguing. Tell me more.
That's one hell of a tangent, Lauren.
I guess the shooting range that Brandon and Cody go and shoot at was actually like a NASA training facility or something, and they had astronauts.
It's not at the range. It's like it's close by.
They've got like a
I don't know if this is supposed to be secret. Is it supposed to be secret? I don't know.
I'm so sorry if I. No, I did publish a bit of that.
Okay.
Yeah, they said
this is Brandon Herrera and Cody Wilson.
They assume that the astronauts
were
up to no good while they were there, so they call it that.
Oh, that's funny.
I see.
So how many total weapons do you think you sampled over the course of
in there?
Or do. I mean, let's talk about it.
We'll say that one for the numbers only.
Oh, I'd say at least a couple dozen, maybe more, 30, 40.
No, it wasn't that.
Well, I was shooting in Canada as well. And then we were shooting with Stambalua and... you're probably right. It's probably like a couple dozen.
Yeah, we shot like maybe 4 or 5 in Virginia, and then at the ranch in San Antonio, like maybe 10.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm hyping things up in my head. Woman moment.
Thing is, they were high caliber guns as well.
It was very exciting.
There was an anti-aircraft weapon that we fired, which was
is that 50 BMG?
I think it's.
There's only like
50
8 of them in existence. They're to shoot helicopters, but you can hold them standing.
Oh, it was like
that was
really fun.
I don't know what was that. I think Brandon had it. It was shoulder. I don't know about guns. It was like a bullpup 50 BMG that he had mounted on his shoulder and was firing.
Yeah, we both got to shoot that. That was like really crazy.
And also Hitler's buzzsaw.
What's that? MG42.
MG42, but
it was very popular amongst the Germans.
I know.
And then it like gave me this really bad rash on my arm. There was a funny
Hitler's
name.
hickey.
Hitler's hickey is what we call it.
That was the MG42, the hickey. You guys called it the hickey.
No, that's the MG42.
So why do they call it the Hitler's buzz? Is that because the dude's
super fast?
So it's the same gun that the Nazis used in World War II. It was just a different round back then. So now it's been changed to a NATO round. But yeah, it's the same gun otherwise.
This is whenever
it's super rapid fire. I mean,
That's
it's just
insane.
Like in Band
It's
of
in the
Brothers,
film.
where they're like attacking
Yeah.
machine gun nests. Like that's the gun. The MG is
Yeah,
the
the
one.
MG-43.
It's like a massage. Your whole body is like shaking. It's
So
bizarre.
I will just say real quick, you can watch the full documentary on timcast.com. We hope you do for several reasons. We want to do more. And if we can, at the very least, break even, we have the money then to do another one. But we're also putting a ridiculous amount of money in marketing. So just understand this. Even if you don't want to watch a documentary, just as long as you know, we got an ad up on Twitter. I put up a clip, a trailer for it. I put $50,000 behind it. It's not just about getting people to watch a documentary, getting new memberships, making more documentaries. The ads themselves are activism. If we can make a lot of money off this documentary and then put out advertisements that effectively advocate for gun rights and normalize gun safety and gun culture, we are winning the culture war. So we want to do more of this. We got a whole bunch more plans. So definitely check out the documentary and become a member. Don't miss it. But I'm going to hard segue now to talk about politics here, and then we can talk a bit more about that when we go to the members only show. We got the story. I love it. We got good news on the horizon, my friends. When you see a headline like this, Black Lives Matter leader endorses Trump for 2024 election. Says the Democratic Party is a racist party that strikes at the heart of the black family and the nuclear family. Woo-hoo. So this is a guy who helped found the Rhode Island BLM chapter, who is now advocating for the rights of J6 protesters and says Trump is the best candidate we have. Donald Trump is also leading Joe Biden in 5 of 6 swing states. So as of right now, it's looking like Donald Trump's going to win.
From my polling of my friends, which is not that many people, but they're kind of normie. It's like Biden's old, man. That's what even the people that voted for him are like, this guy's just too old.
Well, he sucks too.
Yeah, but they don't want old. He didn't want old people. They don't want old people, which is also like his same argument for Trump. Like he's too old. We need new blood.
We
need
do.
young men.
Have you seen the comparison of how I've ranted about this multiple times on this show, but how old the politicians are now compared to the normalcy like before the
about the
millennial
founding
era?
fathers?
Do we want millennial and Gen Z politicians, though? I mean,
I want some
kinda
Gen
feel
X.
weird.
It's all
Vivek
boomers.
Ramaswamy.
They have no ties to the current struggles
I
young
totally
people are
get
going
that.
through. It's
I
insane.
Vivek, totally get that, but I mean, just
Vivek,
just incompetence levels, right?
Yeah, Vivek's 38. He's a millennial. I'll
Yeah.
take it.
Well, perhaps
No, he's
part
good.
of
I
the
like Vivek.
incompetence
I
that
like
has
Vivek.
come from millennials and Zoomers is that none of the individuals older than them are retiring and giving them the
No,
power.
no,
and
no,
positions
I totally
that they
agree.
should be
I
in.
think it is the childification of humanity.
Right.
That people are staying as permanent children. So when I see these videos where it's like, adulting, it's so hard. It's like, if you are someone who constantly looks to the older generation as if they're in charge, instead of looking to yourself as someone who needs to
Exactly.
take charge, you will get this phenomenon.
You know who's more terrifying to me than someone who wants to perpetually be a child? And there is something terrifying about that, is someone who never wants to retire. If you never want to retire and you want to hold on to power forever, there is something deeply
Look,
But
sick.
you can,
deeply
primary
sick
these
there.
people. The problem is they're running effectively unopposed, and young people aren't trying. Because what I see happening is that
They aren't even given the shot. They aren't given the resources.
it's not about being given a shot. You have to just do it.
The thing
right?
is, my point is every generation sucks right now, except maybe Gen X, but they just don't, they just don't
but
care. They don't
every
care.
generation sucks. But boomers had 20% of the wealth at the age of Zoomers and millennials, and
I
we've
totally
got
agree.
4%.
I totally
8%,
agree.
nothing. They've
Like-
got 186% worse purchasing power.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and the boomers have a lot of blame to shoulder for this. But I mean, it doesn't change the fact that the millennials are not really capable of governing as a generation.
I
You know what
don't-
I mean, like you have your exceptions, like
I think you're
I
selling
don't-
millennials short.
I don't blame boomers for having wealth. I blame boomers for not educating younger generations.
Oh, yeah.
This
No,
is
they got a lot of blame.
nonsense. It's all lies. I disagree with everyone here. If only millennials voted in Canada, we would have a conservative majority government.
that
Boomers
true?
are more likely to vote for liberals
Okay,
than
so that was
millennials in
one
Canada.
poll.
There is so much propaganda going
But that's
against
not
the
the
younger
United States.
generation from boomers that want to hold on to power. And there are good boomers. I love you guys. Don't worry. But there's a lot of bad ones that have a lot of power.
Right. So I'm talking about the United States. Right.
I'd have to look at the data here.
Millennials-
Obviously, I'm Canadian, but there's a lot of propaganda against the younger
Millennials
generations.
are looking at boomers as if they're always in charge. Instead of, for whatever reason, like in my life, I've had disdain for everyone older than me all the time. Just like it didn't matter who you were. Teacher, you're awful, you're stupid. I'm 12 and I'm smarter than you. Even though I know I'm really not. I don't care. You're dumb, I'm smart, you don't get it. So I get older, I'm like, look, they're doing it wrong. I can't stand this. I'm going to go do it. But millennials tend to be like, well, they're the one who's the senator. They're the one in charge. I can't do it. It's not that no millennial is doing it. It's that millennials in general have this tendency towards assuming the older generation are the ones who are supposed to do it, not them.
And I'm talking in general. Like, you always have your exceptions, right? But talking about
I do think there is a kind of sense of giving up amongst young generations. They're like, the economy is so bad, the world is headed down a spiral, and they just kind of they've given it. Okay, you guys can do.
No. I'm saying, like, when you're a child, you ask your parents for permission. Millennials still have that mentality that they need to ask the boomers for permission. I'm like, as soon as you turn 18, you're in charge. Right. And you look the boomer in the eye and say, shut your mouth, I'm the boss now, start mopping the floors.
They have all of the money. They have all of the financial, most of them.
So listen, with all due respect to boomers, one of the biggest tropes was that the boomers didn't understand computers, and they would hire these young people to come in and pay them a certain amount of money to fix computers. The money is available to those who seek to exploit an open marketplace. But millennials are permanent children. Instead of seeking to take over, start companies, a lot of it is propaganda. Too many millennials are like, tell me what to do, daddy.
Well, you know what? Boomers were
just different in Canada.
Boomers were helicopter parents.
Can't you? I was just gonna say, can't you blame that on boomers as well?
That's what I'm saying. Okay. Boomers did awesome stuff, and I actually think boomers are great. I think boomers are more based than the millennial generation, but it is the boomers who helped create millennials,
for sure,
and created the culture and generated the next generation. Right. Gen X is actually probably the best. And they often, the reason why Gen X gets overlooked in all the arguments is because they're doing fine.
X had a great opportunity.
Everyone's like, everyone forgets about Gen X. We're here to talk about boomers and millennials.
Man.
No, it's because Gen X is doing all right.
X was around before the internet and like teenagers when it got created. So they saw what it was like before this mass manipulation took over, and they know that it can be like that. The boomers never really understood the internet, and people that were born with the internet as a normality don't understand that you can live without this manipulation and you can use it to your advantage. So,
well, hold on. Look, millennials mostly did not get born into the internet. So I had the internet since I was, as long as I can remember. Like my family had the internet in the 80s. So we had CompuServe, we had DOS Shell, all that stuff. Windows 3.1 and even before that, whatever. And so I grew up quite literally, the internet was always there. Most of my friends did not get the internet until they were teenagers. Gen Z, however, I think is actually much more based than millennials. Though Gen Z has its issues for sure. We can highlight all the weird woke Gen Z. Gen Z actually, according to Pew, I think this was 2018, slightly more conservative in a few areas. So they're comparable to millennials, but a little bit more based. And I think it may be because many of these people growing up with the internet always more so have a view maybe that you and I do, that it's a propaganda, garbage, fake reality, screw them.
I think one of the things is really important, was kind of what you guys were saying, is that the generalizations aren't fair, because there are some brilliant, magnificent leaders within every generation. And for a kid right now, or a human that was born in like 1990, to hear us say, people in your generation are lazy, they're going to be like, I'm lazy, because they listen to us and they believe what we say. Yeah, and there's some great leaders.
Yeah, but hold on, be smart. We're not saying literally everyone. Right. We're saying there is a tendency among certain generations to have a higher proportion of certain types.
And we got to figure out why.
If you're listening to this, you can be better. Be better. We need you to be better.
Be better, but we also need to be aware of what the time is like. Tim, you're an anomaly. You're very successful, very talented on your own, but most people need support systems that are really strong. Like, I'm talking like whole families, like Italian Sopranos style. Like, we've got our own law going on here. And that has existed for most of human history, that people have had these clubs. They've literally lived on the same properties with all of their extended families. And it was really the boomer generation that kind of started this idea of the nuclear family. Get out of this house. I'm kicking you out. You're making it on your own. And of course, people are floundering. This is actually a phenomenon in human history, that people are being kicked out of their houses at 18 and not kind of handed a job from the dad, from the grandfather, that they've been doing for ages and ages, given that direction. And the fact that they're a bit confused and asking for direction should not be a surprise at all.
This is a good point. It used to be, and it still is in a lot of ways. I went to a maple farm. We went to Pittsburgh 2 weeks ago. On the way back, we stopped at this eighth generation maple farm. We go inside. There's like, when you go to the front door, the door is just open. There's a sign saying, if you want to buy something, give us a call. And I'm like, man, like in the country, right? The store is open with no one inside it. Just call us if you want to buy something. They're very trusting. Old guy comes in, plays a video about how they make maple syrup, showing like old photos from like the 1800s when they were like making maple syrup. And he talks about how they had this farm going way back. He got it from his dad, who got it from his dad, who's got it from his dad. He brought his daughters in. His daughters are taking over now. And that's how it used to be. And then industrialization happens. You don't own anything anymore. And so when your kid gets older, you say, go find a job somewhere else, instead of the dad being like, son, when you're old enough, you're this blacksmith's forge will be yours.
There is an incredible rant on this in the second episode of Fear and Loathing in the New Jerusalem by Martyr Maid. I don't know if any of you guys have listened to the podcast, but it's very good. And he talks about how if you ask a man at a random farm in the middle of nowhere in the Middle East who he is, he's going to be able to tell you. He knows exactly who he is. He knows who his family has been for thousands of years. He knows what his identity is, what his job is. You are going to have a tough time manipulating that man into absurd ideologies. Whereas if you ask someone, a modern suburbanite in the city, who they are, what did he say? He said, they don't need existentialist philosophers there. They don't need these people asking, who are we? Because they know we need those people here because we are such a diaspora. We are so spread out. We are kicked out of our houses. We don't know who our families are. We don't know our history. We don't have these lineages of jobs. And we're very easily controllable because of that, and very easily confused because of that. You get offered a sense of identity in the realm of a new radical ideology every single day on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. You're going to be desperate for that because there is nothing you are latched onto in this world when you are kicked away from your family, and the closest people you have are nuclear, and there's nothing outside of that even.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
It's a huge issue.
I noticed. Go for it.
Well, I just want to say that one of the things that you're seeing nowadays, or I think you're seeing nowadays, is the fact that human societies don't get to have the option of not having religion. So if your society has culture and religion that's built into it, then it's going to have, certain things that it does, and everyone kind of knows how to be in the world, right? If you don't have that, if you don't have religion, if that's taken away or you just abandon it, then you end up having society replace a religion that has foundations, that works, oftentimes with statism. And that's what you saw. That's what Nietzsche was talking about when he said, God is dead. That's what you saw in Nazi Germany. That's what you saw in communist Russia and China. And it's because religion has evolved with human beings. And I don't think that human beings on a societal level get the option of not having it. If you don't have a traditional religion, your society will replace it with something. And you see the bad things that happen when you try to replace what has worked for societies throughout history, when you see it replaced with new things and attempts at new things. When Nietzsche said God is dead, he wasn't saying that this is a good thing.
Yes.
He didn't know what was going to happen. He didn't know how people were going to replace it, and he predicted the horrors of communism and Nazism.
Yeah, he
knew
God
that it was
dead,
coming,
and we have killed him.
Yes.
And now we're going to go downhill.
Yeah, one of the things that liberals, and I talk about progressives, when I say liberals, I talk about progressives. One of the things that they tend to do frequently is talk about, it's good that Nietzsche, it's good that God is dead, and we need to evolve beyond religion. But the evolution is the wrong word, first of all, because you don't evolve unless there's outside forces working on you. It's like human beings don't just change because
it's self-directed evolution now.
Fair enough.
So it's transhumanism and all this stuff.
It's shown that it doesn't work, though. It doesn't work for human society.
It's a disaster. Yeah.
It ends in piles and piles and piles of bodies all the time.
I was thinking when someone is going to develop their sense of self, I can tell you what to believe, but you're going to need to tell me what you believe. And that's what I've noticed about indoctrination is you can tell people can go online and be told this is what I'm supposed to be, this is what but until they have an opportunity to express themselves, it's going to be challenging to develop themselves. And this is why I like things like X Spaces, or opportunities where you throw up a video chat or an audio chat and people come in and get the mic and then they express what they believe. And it's like you're allowing people to develop themselves. And we need more that's what a good parent will allow the kid to tell you what they are. I think if you're constantly telling your kid what they're going to be, what they are, it's like the brain can handle it, but you need the entire core system to experience the vibration of explaining what I am. More people.
It's the most basic act of creation is to speak, right?
Yeah.
It's like the story in Genesis, right? God spoke the worlds into existence, and we're made in the image of God, so we have that same kind of power. You know what I mean? I believe that's what sets us apart. And so when it comes to things like censorship, it is an attack on that divine image that you have because you're not expressing yourself.
That's it, man. The word, it's cymatic. There's like literally the vibration. I'm into metamaterials for this, like etching shape into your core, your DNA and things with your voice, with the It's so important. So I encourage everybody out there to create spaces to let other people come express themselves in your presence.
You better drink that.
I think Tim's going to kill me.
That $5,000 cognac is leaking through your paper cup.
How much did you put in there?
It ate its way through.
The cognac is so strong, it's eaten its way through the cup and it's dripping.
Does it taste like paper?
Yeah, I'm getting this nice paper flavor. Tim has been looking at me like literally
$100 worth.
I've never seen someone so angry in a stare. Like
not for the memes.
Daggers for eyes.
I would have just said, no, Lauren, don't.
There are glass cups over there.
Or maybe judgment.
She's doing it on purpose because she got a bunch of people being like, no, when she was drinking Pappy, this expensive, what is it? It's based bourbon, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. You know what? I actually like this. This is the first really strong drink that I've been like, I actually don't mind.
You should just hold it up like this and let it drip into your mouth.
Think of it as a filter.
It's a coffee filter, my cognac filter. Yeah, it's just dripping right out the corner there.
I imagine there would be whiskey purists that would have a coronary if they saw that.
Well, they did. That's what happened.
She didn't drink this.
She didn't. It's supposed to be like an ounce in a glass, celebratory, very expensive. They use like a dropper to make sure they don't miss a drop with it.
I'm gonna get some.
We cracked this open when Elon Musk finally acquired Twitter before it was X. And we were like, huzzah, we celebrate. Yeah, and we all cheers and had a little bit. I don't think I had any, actually.
Oh, why? Yeah, shouldn't we be cheersing for the documentary?
Cheersing.
This is cheersing. I'm a very cultured woman.
But she was, Lauren didn't know what Pappy was.
No.
And so she just poured in a paper cup like, I'm just going to have whiskey or something. And then people in chat were like, nah.
I'm going to rinse mine out first.
Yeah, it looks like someone had milk in there for some reason.
Some white stuff in here, Serge.
Just there's some white stuff in his drink.
So remember the bus you showed me earlier?
The bus,
that's what I'm thinking when I see that cup.
Listen, those are my people.
It's perfect.
Hey guys, congratulations on the documentary, man.
Thank you.
I'm super excited to see this. Maybe we can watch a snippet of it on the after show.
Well, we got a bunch of trailers and clips and stuff. We're gonna be putting clips up and everything. But yeah, there's some people asking like, why didn't you do like a big theatrical release and all that stuff? And it's like, yo, this is our second documentary, Game of Money being the first, also available on timcast.com, and we're gonna be making more. It would be really cool, in my opinion, if we had at least one every month tackling these issues, and we are dumping a ton of marketing behind them. And we are discussing in the future, like, how do we do red carpet events? Mm-hmm. How do we get like theatrical releases? Police State, Dinesh D'Souza's film, is in many theaters.
Wow.
Sound of Freedom was. We could definitely pull it off, but we got to get there. We need your support. Become a member.
Maybe if this one hits a benchmark, we could do a theatrical day, a release day.
Yeah,
just
the
do
next
like
one
one showing or something.
I mean, yeah, honestly, we could, even though it's out on the website, we could still rent a theater and do it.
Cool.
We should just do it. Maybe it might take a month though. But we could go to a local theater and easily just ask them, like, hey, how much to rent the theater? And then we'll sell tickets to it. We'd sell out for sure. That'd be great.
I think so. I think that'd be awesome. It's a really good, like, I remember driving by my local theater and seeing Sound of Freedom playing and just getting this feeling of, wow, like the culture is really changing. Like when you actually see it in everyone's face that you're driving by, like something that is culturally not completely progressive left wing, which seems to be everything in Canada all the time. It's really moralizing.
I bet if we went to a local theater and said we want like Thursday, Friday, and Saturday,
cheers,
and like 3 showings each day, we'd sell out every single showing.
Yeah, you could,
because it's only a one-time thing. People are going to come from all over the area to come watch it.
Most of the time, you can rent out theaters for private functions, anyways.
Right.
So I think it'd be easy to do.
Somebody was saying to sell DVDs too, that they'd buy one.
DVDs.
I usually do DVDs for all my documentaries, and people like to buy them.
There actually is a market for it.
They assume everything's going to be censored and taken off the internet one day, which isn't entirely insane.
Well, not just that, for people in Canada, where they don't have internet way up north or in Alaska,
where we don't have, actually we got to do it for VHS.
Do you guys look, Canada's very close to you having to secretly slide a DVD under your jacket to somebody to share information because Trudeau's watching.
Do you guys ever go up to like the Is it the Yukon?
The
Is that what
Yukon. I've never gone up that far.
that's like the frigid north or something?
I've gone pretty far up. I like the snow. I like the cold. I love Canada. That's why it's so hard for me to like consider leaving. And everyone I know is considering leaving right now. That's what Tucker's documentary was supposed to be on, the O Canada one. That was cut before he was fired.
Really?
Filmed, all ready to go. Beautiful documentary.
So you're saying we're going to get a bunch of Canadians trying to illegally cross the border into
Only
America?
the good ones.
A lot of them are trying to go to South America that I know. It's actually
El
I'd say
Salvador.
El Salvador. The majority of people that I know are discussing leaving the country right now, and it's actually really hard for me.
Is it
really
because
tragic.
Trudeau has a really creepy voice?
That's exactly it. You nailed it, Tim.
It's like, oh, he's so annoying. Help!
Anytime you hear it on the radio, it just like,
I got that from Kevin McCarthy. I kept.
No, I was going to say he doesn't know how to manspread either.
He doesn't know how.
He doesn't know how to manspread.
Like he does it wrong.
He just doesn't do it.
He like
Oh, he holds his knees together.
holds his
Right,
knees together
yeah,
as
it's
tight
really-
as possible. It's very
Wait, what?
upsetting.
It's really odd to watch.
Have you not seen
Yeah,
pictures? Look up Trudeau sitting.
It's like
Or does
he's
he do
Literally,
that?
just look up Trudeau sitting.
Trudeau sitting?
it's like he's got a dime in between his knees and he's holding
yeah.
on to it.
Yeah.
It's 1800s birth
Yeah,
control.
there you go. For one of the photos.
Yeah.
No,
This one?
Cockchain.
No,
Yeah, look at
there's,
that.
there's
Yeah,
a-
that's the one right
No,
there.
there was a funny one. Trudeau
That one with
sitting-
Trump right there.
No, there's
Which
a
one? This
special.
one?
There's a very special one.
The one with Trump is good though.
Which one?
Look up Trudeau
This?
sitting knees together because there's a few of them. I feel a little weird looking up with these search
looking for
results.
Trudeau's.
Like that one on the
Yeah,
left.
look at that. Like, what the hell?
Look at him.
Wow, that's dangerous.
So weird.
Petite.
Petite. That's such a
Effete.
cute word. I feel like
Wait,
Trudeau.
hold on. Here you go.
Oh, there he is. That's the spread I saw. But I looked up Trudeau manspreading. I can't find one. Let's see if Google has.
We got one right here. There you go.
Oh,
That's
that's
AI.
legit.
Justin, I just want to say you
Is it
gotta
true
you gotta
that-
learn how to manspread, man.
Is it
Things will
true
go
that
better
he-
for you if you can do that.
Is it true that he's Fidel Castro's son?
Absolutely,
We like-
100%.
Yes.
100%.
That's so wild. People keep posting photos of him next to Fidel Castro. And
know
they're like,
what
look,
was-
it's him.
I feel like I can leak this now, but a lot of the maybe not, but they did a proper investigation into it with the Tucker doc. Someone's
Really?
got it was like kind of like Mimi, but they did actually like pursue that angle of looking into whether he was Fidel
And Fox
Castro's
News
son.
has it.
Fox News has it. People, you need to pressure Fox News to release the O Canada documentary. It's incredible.
Should we buy a commercial for Infringed on Fox News?
Absolutely. That'd
People
be
hate Fox
hilarious.
News, though. I just feel like it would be a waste of
Well,
money.
you got to save the people there. Save them. Bring them over
That's
to
true.
Timcast.
I bet they would
Absolutely.
reject it for that reason.
Oh, this smells so good, by the way, dude.
You should do it just to see if they reject it. And then if they reject it, that's an interesting story in itself.
It was like, I think, $12,000 to advertise on Tucker Carlson,
Mm-hmm.
but he was their biggest show. So right now, I think Jesse Waters gets like 7 to 8%. Is that what he's getting? Like 8% of what Tucker was getting? Tucker
How
was
are
getting
their
like 3
numbers? How are their numbers today comparatively to when
me
they
check.
had Tucker? I'm really curious because I feel like I just forgot Fox News existed entirely and never even thought to do the comparison.
Let's see. I don't want to drag him. If I like Jesse Waters. Let's see
There
what
are
we
some
got.
good people still there, but
Fox News averaged 256,000. Is that in the key demo? So yeah, that's like half of what Tucker was getting.
Right.
So maybe it'll be like $6,000 to buy an ad on Jesse Waters' show or something like that.
So would you do? Like pay Tucker directly to shout
call
it
Fox?
out on?
You
no,
call Fo-
for his X show now.
Oh well, he's got an exclusive deal with Public Square. I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
Yeah,
good deal.
I think it's exclusive. Public Square is awesome. They're very based. We love those guys. They are winning the culture war. But Fox, you just call them up. It was actually super easy. MSNBC never got back to me because we wanted to do
my
Our
gosh.
Pillow. What we wanted to do was a parody of My Pillow where we sell burlap sacks full of styrofoam packing peanuts.
You pack it yourself.
And you pack it yourself, and it comes in a box with instructions on how to pour the peanuts into the burlap sack and then sleep on it.
For the record, I think I found out what that white stuff was in the glass. Soap, because it kind of tastes like soap. And
That's
I know
a
this
waste
stuff
of
is so
Louis.
pure.
Yeah, sure. It's
Damn,
Thank
That's,
you.
But
that's a
anyway,
worse offense than the paper cup.
Oh, I gotta go
I
wash
called,
it and get more.
Yeah, you should. I called Fox News, and they basically were like, a single 30-second spot on Tucker Carlson's like 12 something. And so I reached out to MSNBC in the same way, and they just ignored me.
interesting.
I didn't say anything crazy to MSNBC. I said I was looking to inquire advertising. I reached out to their ad network and all that stuff and said, looking for rates, we're interested in advertising, and they just never responded.
Can you advertise on the Young Turks?
I don't know how they do it. I do know that about 10 years ago, I was talking to Jenk, and I mentioned that we had tried doing some ad campaigns through YouTube on his channel, and it did not work. And he actually like asked me, he's like, tell like elaborate. And the issue was YouTube suppression. Like why we were trying to promote a documentary or something. And I was like, let's put on a bunch of channels that are doing political content. And then the data from ads on every other placement was good, but Young Turks was 0 across the board. And so I told him right away, I was like, hey man, we did this big thing, a bunch of channels. We saw like these CPMs and this cost on your channel, nothing, zeros across the board. And I don't know why that is, because we should at least get something, right? And he was like, YouTube suppression, most likely something to that effect. Not that I think they'd be suppressing him these days, with maybe that could be a reason why he's gone way more establishment. Because he saw the writing on the wall, maybe monetarily, and got scared. I have no idea.
People really, you can like really mentally get trapped in this game of how far establishment do I go to save the political causes that I think are important, so I can still talk about them and still get reach. And like, of course, there's a balance there where you can't like go to jail and not be able to do any activism at all, right? That's pretty useless. You can't run into machine gun fire. But there are so many people that will keep making that trade, that kind of signing away their soul to the devil until they've got points that are entirely in line with every single media industry, every single big corporation, every single government, outlet. And they kept making those trades for, I need the eyes. And I think a lot of it comes from good intentions. I really do. And then it's just too late once
it looks
they've
like
completely sold out.
MSNBC is up 12%. CNN is up 16%. Fox News is down 13%.
These are in the ratings?
Yeah, CNN is up. So MSNBC, CNN, and are up, and Fox News is down.
Are they just up because Fox is down?
No, Fox viewers didn't go to MSNBC. Fox viewers left Fox News, and they're watching shows like this one.
Yeah.
Or Crowder.
Yeah,
or
them
other shows
firing
like that.
Tucker was
to the
the
internet.
dumbest business decision they've made in the last decade that I've seen. That was crazy.
Amazing.
What in the hell?
Really weird.
Yeah.
Really
But that was
bizarre.
because of the Dominion lawsuit, I guess, right? They said that they had to, part of it was they had to fire Tucker. That's crazy, yo. Well, we're going to go to Super Chats, so if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button and head over to timcast.com, click Join Us, become a member, check out the new documentary. You don't want to miss it. It's really, really awesome, and we're going to be reading our Super Chats. Looks like we got some Super Chats cut off, which is really annoying that YouTube did that. They're cutting off like the first 10 minutes, but we'll read what we have. Mark Jensen says, I always celebrate with Rittenhouse whiskey. Ah, yes.
Is that a real
Is
whiskey?
that a thing?
I believe it is.
Good for Kyle. Is he?
It has nothing to do with Kyle.
Oh, that's so funny.
That's just a name. All right, Andre Calderon says, holy F, I just finished watching Infringed, and you all did an amazing job. Such a nice documentary. Lauren Southern was perfect. I encourage everybody to watch it. Very important issue for the future. And, I'm not gonna, hide behind anything. Lauren outright says the documentary, go buy guns now. So it's like, it is not like we're trying to be fair about the issues of gun. No. We are advocates.
Unfortunately, I only thought afterwards that we should have had like the sponsorship logos go up at the end.
Yeah.
Could have paid for the dog that way. No, but it's not sponsored by anyone. You guys,
Nope.
the viewer.
The viewers like you helped us fund this tremendous documentary. All right, we're going to meet some more. Mike Oxart says, just got back from voting in New Jersey. The reading machines got jammed, so they had us wait half an hour just to put them in a bin to be hand counted. Not sure what to make of that, but there you go. Polly Puree, 9 minutes into the show, said, fabulous show tonight. I know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Polly.
The Sig P says, Tim, might you consider having the armed scholar on to talk about 2A advocacy if Colleen Noir is unavailable? He's a based CA attorney with a YouTube channel dictating the 2A landscape in real time and works with FPC and GOA. I think that would be really great for the Culture War podcast.
We tried to reach out to Colin for the documentary. I can't remember what happened there. I don't know. If
He's a busy guy.
Yeah, he is.
He's got a standing invite to come on whenever he can.
Yeah.
And we've talked to him back and forth, but I respect. He's a busy
absolutely.
dude.
Well, we wouldn't have reached out if we didn't respect.
Another person that, if you're interested in 2A stuff, there's the Four Boxes Diner YouTube channel.
I think people were shouting them out last
Mark's
yesterday.
He's worked with the Supreme Court. He's argued cases before the Supreme Court, so he's a very good resource.
All right. Citizen 7 says, I've asked this before and I'll ask it again. Freeing the source code sounds all well and good, but how is it possible to verify that the software in the machines was compiled from the source code that was made public? Ooh, he got you there, Ian. He got you.
Wow. I mean, you could put it on video
Stumped.
of them taking the machine downloading the data onto a hard drive on a monitor while it's downloading and have it all publicly streaming.
It's AI though.
What's AI?
It's fake.
But you'd have to do that.
Faked.
You'd have to do that for every single machine.
Yep.
Yeah,
Well, let's
tough,
just start by I don't know. That's a good question. Let's get a developer in here and ask them the same question.
All right, we got Jason Hutchinson. It says, "My rights, my property is not up for a vote. Find me a politician that supports that, and I'll vote." That is absolutely right. Michael Mal says it. My rights are not up for a vote. Agreed. Michelle Riddle says, "Blame Canada. Shame on Canada." Yeah, shame on Canada. Shame on you guys for not. I don't know. Shame on you.
I
for,
like Canada. I love Canada.
What's really funny is that Infringed is actually a Canadian film.
It is
So true.
Yeah.
Blame us for saving your gun rights. That's right.
We had to outsource to Canadians a documentary to protect the rights of Americans. Think about that.
We understand what it's like to be mauled by a bear because you can't own guns on national parks. That actually happened 2 months ago.
American gun owners are going to be like, Timcast outsourced good American paying filmmaking jobs to these Canadians.
The reality is we're all Americans, North Americans.
So true, King.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. The Dude Abide says, "Hey, don't be trying to brag about 1812. Y'all got real quiet when Colonel Jackson took a little trip down the Mississippi." We almost took Montreal in the War of 1812.
Why did they stop short? What happened?
Of taking Montreal?
Yeah.
Because the British burned down the White House.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
1814.
Yeah, the Canadians actually moved their capital. It used to be in Kingston, Ontario, which is a lot closer to the border, and they got scared and they moved it to Ottawa because the
Americans,
blue coats were coming.
Pesky.
Yeah, no, it was like I
Pesky
guess
militiamen.
And during the Civil War too, wasn't it like that? I think we talked about this, Stephen Marsh, during the Civil War. The Union was like, "Guys, why don't we just take Canada while we're at it?" For real, yeah. And also, the U.S. took Mexico. People don't know this, and then Polk gave it back. And Americans were pissed. They were like, "Wait, what? Why did you give back Mexico? It was ours." Like, this country would have been massive.
We wouldn't need a wall. We wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah. All right. Neglectful Sausage says, "Check 1,000 Currents. It's got left-wing radicals on the board and supporting it. The 1,000 Talents campaign is Chinese. So what's 1,000 Currents? Isn't that, what's 1,000 Currents? Is that Cenk Uyghur's thing? Was that what that was?
1,000 Currents? I don't know what
that
1,000
is.
Currents is.
Bold solutions for climate, food, and economic justice.
That
Sounds
sounds
like-
awful.
Communist.
It's too bad because those things would be cool if they didn't get co-opted.
I just want to say this right now. So, Brandon Herrera tweets out, he X-posts, check out the documentary and links to it. And shout out, really do appreciate it. And then someone responds to it, "I'm not paying for that. Tell Timcast to upload it to YouTube." And I'm sitting here waiting for someone to say it because I know they're going to. And I'm like, "I got you." And then I immediately call him a communist. I'm like, "I got him." I was waiting for someone to say, "Just make it free," because they did that at the Daily Wire. The Daily Wire puts out one of the most important documentaries ever, takes the country by storm, the world, What is a Woman? And all these people are like, "Give it to us for free. It's important. Give it for free." And they're like, "Yo, it costs us a ridiculous amount of money to make this. All the crazy work, all the employees." And so it's funny that, here we are, supposedly the capitalists, and there are people saying that we should give it away for free. Okay, let me just say something. I believe in the cause. In order for the cause to succeed, the cause needs resources. If we want to make more documentaries, we need money. If we spend 6 figures producing a documentary and then don't get any of that money back, we can't make another one because we don't have money. Like, you got to pay for a plane ticket. You know what I mean?
I like to eat. I like to feed my kids.
Very true.
Yeah.
I did this for years. I did my first 3 documentaries and published them all for free. And there's a reason I'm here now working with Tim and not still publishing documentaries for free, because guess what? I don't make any money to make new documentaries when I publish them for free. So I'm actually really thankful. I wouldn't be able to make another one if I didn't have the funding, the resources.
And so here's what I'm saying. Not only did it cost a lot of money to make, but we want to market it too. We want to blast this off. We want it all over Facebook, all over YouTube. Mm-hmm. I want some regular 24-year-old dude playing video games to open YouTube and get a commercial for Infringed. And then to see Lauren laughing and hanging out with the guys and they're talking about gun rights, safety, and 2A, all that stuff. We want to make it ubiquitous and common that Americans are all about this. We want to make it popular. The other thing is, these YouTubers, they're going to see a big spike in their revenue and they're like, "Oh, what's this all about?" And it's going to be like, "Oh, you've got commercials for this documentary." And they're going to say, "Oh, wow, bread and butter, baby." Mm-hmm. If we run these commercials, we make money.
Can I select to have that ad run on my videos?
I like this ad. Usually it's just got an I don't like this ad option.
Yeah, we as the advertiser choose where to put it.
Put them on my videos.
We put them on. We're going to put them up everywhere. YouTube was a lot harder. It took like, I don't know, 8 hours to get approved, which is like fairly normal. On X, it was like 5 seconds. I was like promote, and it was like under review, and then I got an email being like, yeah, you're good.
Yeah, and if you have friends that aren't the kind of person that are going to pay for a documentary like this, have a little viewing party, get a Timcast membership, invite your friend over, make some popcorn, watch the movie with them. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a great movie to watch with people. Start discussions. It's and we made sure to. It's really difficult sometimes to make movies that are really highly like data history filled, entertaining. But we went on the ground. We shot the guns. We went to Baltimore. We went to these places. We keep it dynamic.
I hope we make at least 2x our costs back. I hope we get 100%, or like a 50% margin, I guess you'd say. Then we'll make 2 documentaries, right? That's what I'm saying. If we, spend all this money and make back 2 times the money, we'll make 2 more documentaries. Mm-hmm. And then we'll make 4 more documentaries. And we'll keep just building content, making shows, and doing awesome stuff.
One of the things I liked about the Infringed, I saw the trailer, was that it seemed kind of nonpartisan. Like it started off, this particular trailer, explaining like gun violence and how horrible it is. And then it showed like, the antidote, and like actually self-defense can help you defend yourself against gun violence. And I thought it's just a brilliant way to look at it.
Yeah, you don't have to deny that there are horrible things that can be done with guns. You don't have to deny that there are negative sides to it to talk about why you need a right to them. Like the best arguments are one that acknowledge all sides and still say this argument comes out stronger, right? In my opinion, anyway.
Let's read some more. We got Legama, who says, if you get scam calls or texts or WhatsApps, respond with a text including things like Tiananmen Square, Taiwan independence, and other forbidden terms on the Chinese internet. You will have your scammer essing his pants and also force Chinese intel to look into it. It also it could result in them stop calling. They stop calling you. Wow. The problem is a lot of these calls are robocalls. But if you're getting messages, I suppose that makes sense.
Troll the Chinese.
Oh, I wanted to mention as well, Infringed can be a drinking game as well. If you want to watch it, every time someone fires a gun, you take a shot.
Oh, no.
Like, and when it's a machine
consult
gun.
a doctor before
getting drunk.
You'll be drinking so much.
Your
probably
heart
tell you
can
not
take that kind of activity.
EW says, Tim, I would love to be able to buy a hard copy of Infringed. I have purchased all of Lauren's documentaries on DVD. This one I would really like on DVD. Okay, we'll figure it out. Let's get it.
Who is that?
EW Super Chat. Then we'll start looking into it. I'll have to send a message to somebody, but we'll see if we can figure this one out. And maybe we'll just start like burning DVDs and then mailing them out in like sleeves, just like hand Sharpied, Infringed.
That would be cool. That is a really great marketing idea.
If you wrote Infringed on all of them, then it's like hand signed by you.
I have the worst handwriting ever.
Like, better.
10-year-old boy that's dyslexic.
Keep
my handwriting.
Tell me more. All right.
Ian.
I print everything personally. I don't use cursive. That was when I realized the school system was bunk in 4th grade when they're like, you have to write this in cursive. And I just stopped and I just started printing and they never said anything about it. I was like, oh, I own these guys.
Amanda says a big reason Canada did not join the Founding Fathers in the Revolutionary War was because there were many French Canadians who were Catholic. The U.S. was mainly Protestants who hated Catholics.
Right, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a big French influence in Canada.
I love the language police. It's so hilarious. They're like, our culture is dying. Doom92 says, Tim, you're not showing up on my sub. I had to look for you. Yup. That's the way it goes, man. That's the way it goes. They're trying to suppress us. One thing that happens, and many of you may notice this, when we go live, there will be no thumbnail. Yeah, of course, we make thumbnails every time. Yeah. And as we're producing the live stream, we put the thumbnail in it. And then a bunch of people will be like, the thumbnail is a gray box. Uh-huh. And I don't see that happening to literally anybody else. No, but what happens is when people are on the front page and they're scrolling and it appears there, and then people are looking for the image and they don't see it, they don't click it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or someone who doesn't know what the show is might see the thumbnail's interesting. What happens then is they can say, it of course appeared on the front page. It only got a few clicks though. They're playing dirty games.
I heard that if you post more than 4 videos a day on a channel, they stop notifying you for the 5th one beyond. So if we put up 4 clips, could be the issue.
It's not about notifications. It's that some people can't even see the video. Like we'll go live and it'll be on our channel and they'll go to the channel and it's not there.
Oh, weird.
And so they'll have to look for the direct URL posted by somebody else.
Right.
One person super chatted saying that like my friend had to share the URL with me so I could watch it because it wasn't appearing on YouTube.
Yeah, like people are going to their actual live tab itself on the channel and don't find anything. It's happening to me as well. So,
Well,
crazy. I'm wondering if we should just start dumping tons of money into placing the podcast on places just because, it's like, yeah. All right. Fred Kohler says, Lauren, sweet Canadian, moved to South Omaha instead. We have grapefruit and bacon and all wear baseball hats made from graphene. Loves.
That sounds great. I really like the cold, though. I'm a big fan of the cold.
What?
I
That
do.
was what he was saying too.
I like
don't get
snow. I like having a big fire. I'd prefer to get cozy and have like a hot drink than be sitting in front of a fan.
it. I love sweating.
Louis Vasquez says, I signed up for the Miami event. It was great. We'll watch Infringed tonight. Any news on the Apple version of the Timcast app? Would love to see the members' shows in my TV. Thank you. Apple takes forever. The app is done. It is in the hands of Apple. The Android app is currently available for download. You can download the Timcast Android app right now and read articles and watch all the news and everything.
Fast too. I love it.
It's a good app. You can put the show on and then you can suspend. You can, turn the display off and still listen to it and all that good stuff. Here we go. John Sarasanguinus says 2 million gun owners in the state. 350,000 couldn't be bothered to sign a ballot initiative or come out to vote. Gun owners are a joke, dude. Gun owner doesn't mean gun rights activist or even conservative or libertarian. There are woke liberals who bought guns and then turned the TV onto The Simpsons and didn't watch anything political. They don't know, they don't care. The funny thing is, when the U.S. government changes laws, especially gun laws, without telling anybody, one day there's going to be a knock on their door and they're going to be like, we see in the gun registry that you're an owner of an AR-15. Well, that's an illegal ATF-controlled weapon and you are now a felon. And they're going to be like, huh? But I don't watch the news. Too bad.
I was literally telling the story about how that happened to me. Like
Right.
when I got my first gun at 18 years old and it went, I shot it a little bit and then it went under the bed because I spent the next 10 or 15 years in a van and in a bus touring and stuff. And then I pulled it out when I was, 15 years later or whatever. And I realized, oh my goodness, I am not up to date on all the actual legislation. I had to go and do all kinds of jumping through the hoops. And when I initially got it, all you had to have was an FID card and that was supposed to be good for life. And they changed the rules. So
Right.
you have to stay up on those kind of things.
You know
the
when
thing
they
too is the ATF. They use backdoors on websites where you buy things for your
Sure.
gun, like accessories, and so you are already probably on a list.
Well, I mean, I have NFA items, so I got silencers and short
There you
barrel
go.
rifles, so I'm definitely on multiple lists.
But I mean, yeah, they
Definitely
they do
saying
monitor
that on
purchases.
Timcast is helping.
I mean, I put them up on Twitter and stuff. I'm all above board. I'm legit. So
feels the list
I always
master.
have this like little dance where I'm like, ooh, I want to talk about these things because they're fun. Should I? Maybe. I'm in Canada though, and it's like you might as well go one or the other.
yeah, I mean, I agree, but it's like I said, I've been a pro gun guy and put pictures up on Twitter and
Yeah,
stuff forever.
yeah.
So
You know how the government sent out that text, like countrywide about like, hey, we're just notifying you. This is our emergency text thing. Do you think that they should be mandated to do that for changes in laws?
no.
Your phone would never stop ringing.
That's that's the problem.
Yeah.
Omnibus bill passed.
Maybe you could
man,
opt
you're
into
not sleeping all night.
Opt into a number that they could text you on if you wanted updates on every law that gets changed.
There's not a benefit to them because anytime that you're in violation of a law or whatever, they can use that against you. The government doesn't have a lot of desire for people to be aware of the laws and up to date on if they're breaking the law or not.
But it's a benefit to me, and I am the government. We are the government, I
No,
should
we are
say. We
not.
as the American
Are we?
people. That is the goal. That is the intention.
I'm Canadian, and that's so true. We're your secret shadow government.
Matt-
Little do you know.
Matt Kelly says, nice to see a guest who dresses formally on this show. Thanks for representing the Canadian tuxedo. Looking forward to watching the documentary.
It's a beautiful corduroy, by the way.
No, that's the Canadian
her.
tuxedo.
Yeah, that's a
Canadian
Canadian
tuxedo.
tuxedo. That's right.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
it's not
which one?
this. Yeah,
Both of us
Everybody's
are
looking at
dressed
me.
like bums. Which one of us is it?
It's almost. You needed the denim shirt.
I did. I have one, and I thought about bringing it, but
I
maybe
literally
next
was
time.
going to wear a flannel today, but then I was like, Lauren's here, and then like she's going to think that I'm making fun of Canada. So I was like,
Lauren, I do
So
not
true.
look like a bum.
I hugged you earlier,
I
and it
resent
felt good.
that.
That corduroy was nice.
I can't
Yeah,
believe we
see,
let him
it's-
in here.
Right.
That's
good.
really
I love
nice of you
corduroy.
guys.
See, thank you.
Smooth.
It's great that you're doing charity work.
Adrian Curry like that.
Let's grab some more super chats.
What's up?
Woot do for you says, I was put on SSRIs at 12 years old, institutionalized at 17, diagnosed bipolar with suicidal and homicidal tendencies. I'm a gun owner. However, I've had at least 2 feds try to get me to do a shooting. None of this is a joke. Yikes.
What?
Crazy.
Someone
Stay strong.
Someone check in on Buddy.
Yeah, I mean, you could do a whole doc on the SSRIs
Yeah.
and mass shootings, right? I mean,
I remember there are a lot of weird instances I've had. Like, I remember the first time I went to Molenbeek, Brussels, and I was doing interviews, and this Muslim guy was talking to me, and he's like, I went to jail. I swear they tried to get me to do a terror incident. He's like, I promise, like, this is what happened. They were like torturing me. And I'm like, I can't prove this, so I can't publish this, but this is pretty wacky, man. Like, I don't know why you'd come up to me and just start saying this. I don't know. I know nothing.
Well, yeah, that sort of thing relates back to MK Ultra in like the 50s and 60s. And, it's in their documents where they were saying like, we want to develop a mind control system so we can actually have an asset commit an assassination. Like, they admit that was the goal. And then you have, you have guys like Saran who shot RFK saying that, he was under mind control,
Well, what's crazy is they've got technology to make it so that you can hear things, like hear voices, but only you can hear them in a room.
Right.
Like, have you seen that? There's
Talking
a viral
plasma.
video.
Yeah.
There's a viral video going around of a professor showing a classroom where he's like got this speaker that's like a direct speaker that'll make it feel like you're hearing things. And there have been shooters that have been like,
Well,
the voice kept telling me to do this. The voice kept telling me to do this.
This last shooter, like a week or 2 ago, Robert Card, there was something like he went into,
Oh yeah, the
Guy up in Maine.
Yeah, he had like those in-ear things because he had bad hearing or something. I don't know if I'm messing this up, but and he was saying that he was hearing voices, right?
Wow.
So it's
a lot of them are on SSRIs too. It's
the original Night Stalker too was telling people that his dog was telling him he was hearing his dog
That's
talk
so
to him.
weird.
Or I think his name was Richard Ramirez. Was in the
Here's
70s.
a good one. Jordan McClown says, duty to retreat. When you flee your house just to go break into your neighbor's house, they're required to leave. That's how absurd it is. Someone breaks into your house and you're like, I'm forced to flee. And then you break into your neighbor's house and you're like, I can stay here now.
I love that. The duty of retreat chain effect where everyone has to move out of their house eventually because the person beside them.
That is so dumb. That is so dumb. Do not break into houses, anyone, and move to states where you can defend yourself.
It's even better in Canada. It has to be like a last effort mistake if you shoot someone. So like, first of all, you have to accidentally unlock your gun, take the trigger lock off. Then you have to accidentally find your ammo and like slip it into your gun. And then you have to accidentally like slip and fall into your gun and then shoot the guy because it was like the last resort.
What is this? AR says half of Australia is without internet and phone service.
What?
Banking and emergency phone service affecting 10 million. The cause is unknown. Is that true? Someone look that up?
Yeah. What is Australia phone
it's
service?
Australia.
Down?
It would not surprise me.
Australia phone service. Australia isn't a real country.
This is from 6 hours ago. Optus outage leaves millions of Australians without mobile and internet. Wait, Optus is
cyber attack.
They changed the name of the article. So some key services are, quote, gradually being restored after hours-long outage affecting Australia. That means that they're not restored if they're gradually restoring them right now without mobile and internet.
Wow.
Oh no. The not real fake country that's upside down is having trouble with internet.
I wonder if
some wingnut says switch Alec Baldwin for James Woods.
Come on now.
Yep. If it was James Woods who pulled a gun, they'd be screaming, see, guns are bad. It's his fault. Crazy. We'll grab some more. Terrence Mack says, Canadian here, just got my PAL. I'm getting the hell out of Canada once I'm released from the army. Canada's military is an absolute joke. They're so desperate, they're getting permanent residents to join. Shout out to Lauren.
The Canadian military are a joke.
When all the Canadians quit and the Canadian military is made up of non-citizens, they will enforce whatever law they're told to against anyone.
Dude, when they stomped on the trucker protest, that's like the heart of the country. Those are like the most hardcore Canadians.
Yeah.
Oh, I have some stuff I could say about the military after this podcast. The Canadian military are... Yeah, something else.
I would love to help reinvent the American military, Canadian, United States, like really bring some patriotic super soldiers to the table.
Yeah.
They're called.
Yeah, there's a lot to say, like she was just saying. There's a lot to say about the military, the RCMP in Canada. I mean, it's being hollowed out. Yeah.
Polly Puree says boomers are 54 to 69. The silent generation is 70 to 85. It's the silent generation in charge, not the boomers. That you're referring to some members of Congress, a lot of the older ones, but a lot of industry is run by boomers.
Right.
The people who are CEOs.
Silent generation in charge. I rarely hear that take.
Well,
That's
I think Biden's silent generation.
Trump
no
and
way,
Biden.
really.
Yeah.
Was it starting 49 is when the boomers started? Something
Yeah,
like
I'm pretty sure
48.
Trump and Biden are both silent generation.
Wow.
Yep.
Sleeper cell, silent generation.
That's right.
46 is when. So Trump's right on the cusp. He was in 46, I think.
Yep. Putin, Xi, all of them are silent generation.
The commander says, Tim, I have this theory. Check my thinking on this. Now that Michigan and Ohio have enshrined abortion in their constitutions, that means liberal single women will calm down and not vote in 2024, handing those states to Trump. I don't even think that matters. I think it's the economy, stupid, right? The old famous saying. People just want cheap gas, and their bread costs too much money. That's it.
The inflation stuff is probably what's going to have the most effect on the most people, because issue by issue, there's certain voting blocks that it matters to. The economy hits everybody. So
Cheap fuel. Let's do it. These super chats are awesome, by the way.
Yeah, let's grab some more super chats. We can grab a few more. What do we got? 467 Sprite says, Ayo from OC SoCal. Also, yes, saw a zany granny. What is that? In the freeway, pro-Ukraine sticker and an anti-Trump bumper sticker. I think the younger youth would be that red wave whiplash once the old heads phase out. Maybe. I don't know. What do you think?
I'm not so sure. I don't feel like the younger generations are actually more conservative. I mean, I'd like to hope, but I'm not super confident that there are more.
It feels like cope to me.
Yeah, you know, I don't.
Hope to be wrong.
Yeah.
The Pew research from a few years ago was that Gen Z and millennials are almost the exact same, but Gen Z is like a percentage point to the right on some issues. So it could be a reversal. All that really matters is that liberals don't have kids. That's it.
Right.
And people are like, yeah, but they're indoctrinating your kids. And it's like, yeah, but that can only go so far. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Nothing.
It's how they reproduce. It's through the school system and
Doesn't matter.
indoctrination. But I mean, at some point, it,
literally doesn't matter.
can't
And
keep
people are
going.
like, I know conservatives and their kids are totally woke left. I'm like, yeah, that happens. But it literally doesn't matter. Like, you can only indoctrinate so much, which is why they're opening up the southern border, because they know it.
You can indoctrinate adults too, and then they'll indoctrinate their kids.
Right. Kevin O'Brien says all they needed to do was let Trump win the 2020 election. They would have had a year left of Trump at this point. Now they will need to deal with him for another 4 years, LOL. And the revenge that he wants. So Trump's going to go ham, baby. All right, what do we got? Let's see. Sir Alexander Full says, hello, Laura, Tim, and friends. Canadian OG YouTube Toronto Dundas Street church pastor David Lynn has been denied re-entry to Australia after starting evangelizing church there. Interesting. Keith Lovell says, I don't want to run a country, state, or district. I want to do my job and raise my kids. You know, I'll tell you, I love the movie The Patriot with Mel Gibson, because he keeps saying, no war, no war, no war. I will not vote for war. I'm going home. And then the war comes to his house and kills his kids. And then he's like, oh, woe is me. And then he takes up arms and he goes and fights. It's just a story, though, you know?
Same thing in Braveheart, man. It's like Mel Gibson was trying to tell us. First he goes, I just want to raise my crops.
Yeah, leave me alone, man.
Yeah.
Minding my own business. And they're like, nah, we're gonna mess you up. It's like, fine. But that's the brutal thing. That's why it's a good story. It's like these are good men who are like, please, we do not want war and conflict. The problem is, you got to hope for the best and prepare for the worst. And if you're not prepared, it's a brutal movie. But The Patriot with Mel Gibson, one of the best movies ever made. My favorite, by the way. Kenneth Hart says, Tim, stop it. You're scaring Ian. Look at him. He's shaking right now. Calm down, Ian.
Oh, was that in reference to me standing right behind Lauren? Well, actually, I was kneeling right behind Lauren while she was playing.
I have no idea.
Maybe it's this wavy shirt. Just looks like I'm shaking.
Dinglehopper says, shout out to Scott Pressler for joining us on the Timcast Discord last night. Check out his app and his website, Early Vote Action. Very cool. Really awesome to have Scott Pressler hang out on the Discord server. Bad Comedy says, Tim and Ian, I'm building a new 40K army. Should I build and paint a Grey Knights Legion or Custodus? What is that? Do you know that one?
I don't know it. I'm not super versed in Warhammer.
Custodes?
Yeah.
Love you guys and thank you for your work. I have no idea.
I'm Eldar all the way. Also, Tyranids, if you want to rock, get those Gene Stealers. They're like the ant creatures that are psychic. Those things are nasty.
I will say my favorite part of the Infringed documentary is when Carl Benjamin reads the Second Amendment. It's like, we need a British guy to read the Second Amendment. Because the assumption is the Founding Fathers sounded British, but they didn't.
I figure it's so funny because it's like, oh, we just get a random British guy, but he has the most distinguishable voice you've ever heard. Like, there is no way you cannot know it's him. Everyone's seen a Sargon of Akkad video.
Gravity says, don't make me hard, Buck. The documentary is very good. It is very good.
Thank you.
Adam Smith says, Gen X are the Zoomers' parents. Mostly. It comes and goes in waves. There's some bleed over between generations. But yes, Gen X made the Zoomers, which is why Gen Z is, I think Gen Z is more based than millennials. I think millennials are the worst. Yeah, Boomers, aight. Millennials are awful. Gen X is aight, and Gen Z is aight.
Aren't you a millennial?
Yes.
So you're hypercritical on your own generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a millennial too, aren't you?
I'm like the very end.
I'm hypercritical on
I
X.
still speak Gen Z. I'm right on the
very
border.
early. I'm what they call an elder millennial. So I'm, it's
How
like
old are you?
1984.
Oh, okay, right. Yep.
So that's it's sort of like half Gen X, half millennial.
I call those Zennials.
Year of X.
Zennials.
Zennials. Yeah, Ian's a
79 is
Zennial.
the last year of X. So I don't identify with Gen X, really. I identify way more with the people that are born in the 80s.
I'm a millennial, and I think millennials are awful, but I'll tell you why. So I have like a 5-year head start on millennials. When my mom was homeschooling me before I started grade school. I worked for my family's business when I was like 9 to 11 years old. So I have I was a few years ahead of everybody else in terms of working, having a job, being online, being involved in politics. I was like 13 when I was reading political news and talking about all the stuff. And so all the kids around me were not doing any of it. So, I'd probably have a closer to Gen X perspective based on that alone. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. It's interesting. It is what it is.
Get a job when you're 12. That was very Gen X.
Younger.
My mom made me do that.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Smash the like button. Subscribe to the channel. Share the show with your friends. Go to timcast.com, click join us, become a member. Why? So you can watch Infringe, the new documentary. And also, you can hang out in our members only uncensored show coming up in a few minutes. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be spicy and not so family friendly. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. You can follow me personally at Timcast. Lauren, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to shout out a huge thanks to everyone who helped with the Infringed documentary. Ed Powell, obviously, you did an amazing job, Jon, other Jon, my family, friends, loved ones who supported me through it all. Thank you so much. All of the people who support me on Subscribestar, not Patreon, because I'm banned from that.
Right on.
Right. Yeah. What she said basically. Thank you to all who signed up and watched the doc. That's how we can make more of this stuff and make a dent in the culture war.
I'm looking up your Subscribestar right now. Phil, what were you going to say?
I am Phil That Remains on X. I am Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. You can follow us on Instagram, Instagram, yeah. You can follow us on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Pandora, YouTube, the internet.
People want to go to your subscribestar.com/Lauren-Southern.
Aw, thanks.
And support you there.
I
Thanks
need
for
to post
coming,
more
guys.
on that.
Oh, cool. I'm Ian Crossland. Thanks for the liquor. It was delicious. A little soapy, I think, but maybe it's just my imagination.
Mine was a little papery.
Okay.
So
we're
both
even.
making it happen.
Hey, follow me on the internet. What's that, T?
That's like $100 ring of liquid on that Post-it music coaster.
It was cool. It smelled like maple. I liked it. Maybe it was the Canadian in the room.
I've had the most unique paper flavored expensive cognac anyone's ever had. They're all doing it the boring way.
I interviewed a dude on my YouTube channel today. Gotta get your name right, man. Yechezkel.
You got this.
Dude, he's the best. Go check it out. We talked about reusing spent nuclear fuel. He's a rabbi. You guys are going to love this conversation. So subscribe to me on YouTube. Follow me there.
That sounds sick,
dude.
Nuclear fuel reusing with the rabbi and
wild.
And Ian.
Can you guys end by speaking some of your native tongue?
Afrikaans?
It sounds so fun. They made it up.
Anyways, let's go to the after show.
All right, we'll see you all over at timcast.com in about a minute. Thanks for hanging out.